Not be any proposed amendments to the agenda allowed, so we will move right into our superintendent's report. So, Mr. Atkins, if you'd like to open with your remarks, please.
Thank you, Ms. McHale. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight to help us honor our retirees. We have quite the list, and when you lose this much institutional knowledge, it really affects your district. So at our best, we hope we can just fill the shoes and get close enough to have some good folks to help us to move our district forward. So we're here to honor our retirees, and I want to thank everyone for that. Also, I want to touch on, we had teacher appreciation last week. The district was able to send, we fed every school, every staff member, just a little something we try to do. I know it will never show true appreciation as to what you do for our kids and what you do for our community. You're true leaders in our community, whether you think that or not. You are a leader in this community because you work with our kids. So thank you very much touching on that. I wanted to try to keep it, because we do have such a large agenda tonight, to keep it to just a couple of topics. The first thing I want to speak on is we took our cabinet last week over to visit the new high school. And I think the biggest thing everyone took away from that was how large it is. I think that Mr. Reed and Ms. Best better invest in some nice walking shoes, because there's a lot of steps over there. And when I mean steps, I don't mean steps up and down, just steps throughout the building. We have almost 2 wings completed. I'll leave that to Mr. Ratliff to explain to you. But I think the overwhelming consensus was that everyone was very pleased with what they saw at the new school. The second thing I'd like to touch on tonight is we are proposing our budget tonight. This budget includes a 3% raise for all staff. Thank you. Thank you. The legislators were kind enough to add some SEEK monies and some transportation monies, and that really worked out for us to be about 3%, so we wanted to turn around and reinvest that into our staff. And if you'll recall, last year we gave, according to what Mr. Graves told me, a historical raise with the 5%, and it really worked out to be a little more because we gave our classified folks $1 an hour, and that's a little more than 5%. So over the last 3 years, this board and this administration has given a 10% total raise. Now, when we talk about that, you know you get a step every year. Our employees get a step, which, according to Mr. Smith, is right at 1%. We don't count that. That doesn't count into what, and when I tell you you got a 10% raise, you've gotten a 10% raise. Then you got your step. So we try not to count that step, because that's something that is genuinely in your pay scale anyway. That's nothing we're giving you. That's already there. So we didn't do that. But we have given a 10% over the last 3 years, and just very pleased to do that, and hope we can continue to move forward next year with that. And again, I don't want to be too long-winded, so I'm going to cut it off there and turn it back over to Ms. McHale. Thank you, Ms. McHale.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. So now we will move into our recognitions, and I assume Ms. Bailey is going to lead those for us.
She will, but I think I'm going to start with this first one.
Okay.
So as you know, we have a student representative on our board every year. And I'm not sure that we had been doing a yearly recognition for that. Last year, I had to catch up with Miss Hannah Hash after the board meeting. And so I met her in a hallway at the high school and did that. And tonight, we want to make sure that Mr. Brumley feels invited back to his June meeting, but we wanted to go ahead and recognize him tonight just in case he was out of town or going to Disney or something like that, because I know he's got a Disney trip planned. And what I'll say is Connor brings so many good things, not just to this board, but to our school and our community in general. He does a lot of things. Pay attention, you'll see this young man around. So with that being said, I would like to honor Mr. Connor Brumley as our student representative for the school board this year. Thank you. Appreciate it. You want brief?
I'll be very brief. I just want to say thank you. For those of you who know me, you know how much public education means to me and my family, and so to have this opportunity finally to serve on the board has been a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I do thank the board members and community members for always supporting me in all of my endeavors, and look forward to the change I can make in the future. So thank you.
Okay. Our second recognition tonight is of the Woodford County High School flag attendance. There are 4 students who volunteer each day to raise and lower the Woodford County High School flag, and Principal Tyler Reed is here to recognize them and say a few words.
As a new principal at Woodford County High School this year, of course, you're greeted with students that come and go right off the bat. And these 4 students came and volunteered at the beginning of the year and said, you know, we've had students take down the flag and put up the flag, and we'd really like to take on that responsibility. I'm like, okay, so now I know the 4 students that want to get out of class 5 minutes early every day. But it's really more than that. These students have showed reverence every single day. They've been on time. They've communicated in the most professional way, and they've really gone above and beyond to take on this responsibility. As you know, as you're passing the high school, if the flag's not up, that'll be one of the first community phone calls we get each and every day. And so these guys have really honored the tradition of that. That's Buckley Greathouse, Declan Crosby, Kamari Lewis, and Logan Pariah. We really appreciate the service you've given us this year.
Okay, and before we get to our retirees, I was just informed of another quick recognition, and that is our Woodford County High School agriculture students working in the greenhouse donated these lovely flowers for the board members. So we had another successful greenhouse program this semester. Okay. For our retirees. Now, you all correct me if I'm wrong, but as I call your name, Angel, it's calling names and then we're doing the speaking? Okay, as we do. Apologies. So as I call your name, if you're here, you will come down to the rocking chair and your supervisor has some lovely remarks to say about you. So we'll do it one at a time. Beginning with Miss Sandra Lippert, who spent 17 years at Southside Elementary School.
Is the rocking chair fitting now? All right, so lots of great stories that we could tell about Sandy Lippert, but we're just going to start with just the basic of when I first became to Southside, it was always the 2 Sandys that were hanging out together. And you were basically Southside's version of Lucy and Ethel, I feel like, because you're always up to some shenanigans around, and so making it fun for everyone around. You know, it's not been the same. So Sandy retired last year over the summer, so it's not been the same around Southside without you. You've been sorely missed. You know, you're not someone we could easily replace, and we've been searching for that replacement and haven't been able to, but Sandy, you were fantastic for us at Southside, and we wish you could come back and visit with us now, actually, so thank you, Sandy.
Kay Penn with 30 years at the bus garage in transportation.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to celebrate the remarkable career of Kay Penn, our esteemed transportation director who retired in August after nearly 30 years of dedicated service. Kay's leadership, her passion, and tireless commitment transformed the transportation department into one of the most respected in the state. We extend our deepest gratitude and warmest wishes for a retirement filled with joy and fulfillment. Thank you, Kay, for your invaluable contributions to Woodford County Schools.
Jamie Bourne, transportation, 5 years.
Sorry, but this bus duo cannot go alone because Cheryl Barnes also retired at the same time. And I believe she was at 8 years for retirement, so give her a round of applause as well. And Kay's going to come up here and help me too. She just doesn't know it. Come on, Kay, you get to help. Okay, so I only had the privilege of getting to know both of you for a very short time because I came not too long ago, but Kay came a lot sooner and has been here for a long time. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her, and then I have a little poem for both of you all.
Thanks for the heads up. So I didn't write anything. So speak from the heart, right? I hired both of these ladies, and one thing you don't know when you first hire bus drivers and monitors is where their clique is. And it came very clear that their clique was with special needs children. And to say they did a good job would not give them justice. Phenomenal with the children. Loved them as their own, took care of them on the bus and away from the bus, bought them gifts, just made sure they were okay. If they needed coats, whatever it was that they needed. These two ladies are exceptional, and I know you're missed terribly. So, how's that, Josh?
All right, so real quick, in the early light of dawn they rise, with steady hands and watchful eyes, their routes map out, their path clear, the bus driver and monitor begin their journey here. Through the bustling streets and the quiet lanes and those very, very tight lanes, they navigate through sun and rain and sometimes even snow if Mr. Atkins doesn't call off school. Each stop a story, each passage a face. In this rolling world, they find their place. From morning's start till evening's end, their duty calls, and they do not bend. With patience, grace, they steer their way through every twist and turn that may come their way. Through their unseen, their roles profound, and keeping communities tightly bound. For in the hum of the engine's roar lies the heartbeat of so much more. So here's to the driver and the monitor, steadfast and true, whose tireless efforts carry us through. In their hands we place our very special trust, for they are the guardians of our daily bustle and rush. Congratulations, ladies. And just so you know, Cheryl's shirt was made by the kids that rode her bus at Southside, so they left her that on her retirement.
Todd Cooper, 17 years in the maintenance department.
Todd has worked for the school system for 17 years. We've worked together for 12 of those years. Todd is a model employee. I can't think of one time in 12 years he's ever been late. He's 15 minutes early every day like clockwork. Todd has come into work numerous times at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, pushing snow, salting, cleaning up flooded buildings, many times on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. He's always very flexible and willing to help wherever needed. You name it, and he's probably done it. I did a little math, and in 17 years, Todd has mowed 38,182 acres for the district. Not only is Todd a great employee, he is a role model, a family man, and a good friend. Your hard work over the years is greatly appreciated. You'll be dearly missed, but I hope you enjoy retirement in Florida. We will keep you updated with our morning meetings about what's going on. Good job, Todd. Thank you.
Angel White Cooper, 29 years at Central Office.
I don't think there's an employee in here that doesn't know who Miss Angel Cooper is. And that says a lot without saying very much about what she's done for this district. I can't stand here in 5 minutes or 15 minutes and describe to you the 29 years that Angel has put in or given to this district. If there's something that I can promise you, as a new superintendent, when I came in, she couldn't answer questions fast enough. And I'm sure she was the same way with every superintendent she worked with and every employee she worked with. Our door is always busy because there's always a question for Ms. Cooper. And I have never yet heard her tell someone, that's not my job. She is always looking for an answer and a way to help her employees and help this district. So with that being said, Angel and Todd are doing what we all say we want to do. That's to retire and move to the beach. So congratulations, and the 29 years of institutional knowledge, like I said before, I still got your cell phone number. You may want to change that. But thank you, Angel, for such a great career and what you've done for the children and the staff of Woodford County Schools, and me.
Kelly Griffey, 25 years at Woodford County High School.
Kelly, as you walk over, I wasn't told that I needed to keep this short, so I'm going to go ahead and start. No, it's not a short joke, no. Kelly began her career as a German teacher at WCHS, supervising one of our satellite classes. After moving to the English department, Kelly was part of the very first freshman academy that Assistant Principal Danny Cassidy started in 1999. This secured her place as a freshman teacher for most of her career. I've been told many stories about the pranks and fun that these young new teachers would have with each other back then. Kelly could always be seen leading the pack for a good laugh. I'll never forget the time she took a picture of Libby Denny with her hand out in a faculty meeting and put it next to Grumpy Cat for a really funny comparison. Kelly received her master's degree in administration, but her love for the students kept her in the classroom. Kelly is a quiet mover. She rarely leads crowds with loud dissent, but goes about making things happen. One example is that she noticed the hedges growing in the courtyard were blocking her window view from her classroom, and she came in on a Saturday to prune them to her liking. She treats her classroom as her home, arranging it with comfortable lighting and fresh paint. But don't worry, Shane, there was no fresh paint this year. Kelly was a freshman class sponsor and Jacket Fest sponsor for many years, and would always love having to make the announcement to separate from each other when those slow songs played. Kelly offers her classroom as a home to many students. If you walk by her classroom at 8 a.m., you will see students working on makeup work, talking to her, or just relaxing and enjoying each other's company. Students know Kelly's room is a safe space, but mind you, she doesn't mind a little tea flowing, if you know what I mean. Kelly works hard on the equity team and makes it a point to know all about her students. Being a WCHS grad, not much can get past her without a "watch out, don't let so-and-so find out." Kelly always shows up with style and grace, as you see tonight. She comes to work every day dressed up, hair fixed, and always looking professional. She does not expect or judge others for not doing this. She just wears her class well. An interesting story is one time several years ago, she invited us out to her house while I was teaching to swim in her pool. She made a really nice big enchilada casserole, and of course her pool looks like a country club. Now remember, we were at her house. She sat by the pool with us dressed in pool attire until all of a sudden, her daughter included, started splashing and making a lot of, pool fun. Kelly then said, "I need to go check on that casserole, and I can't get my hair messed up." So she welcomed us, she treated us, but pool water in her hair was the limit. Kelly, we're gonna miss your class and love for all. We'll miss the little things that you take care of that no one ever knows about, but mostly we're just gonna miss you. Keep Chris in line, make memories with Allie and Aaron, and hold that grandbaby until Allie takes him back from you. Best of luck, Kelly.
Tanya Steele, Northside Elementary, in 26 years total.
Ready? All right. No, you don't get to keep the rocker. But it's going to go along with what I got to say about you, so it actually works out well. To say Tanya is ingrained in the fabric of Northside would be a complete understatement. She loved the school so much. We have loved to have her. She loved it so much that her house actually backs up to the school. So it was nice of her to move right there. Her commute to work is about a 30-second walk. But it's always a smiling face. She is one of those people that, whether it's with kids or with new teachers or the teachers that have been there, she is always a reliable person to lean upon, to mentor, to have. She is oftentimes, when I get a phone call, the ones that parents want to put, hey, I want my kid to go into her class. That happens a lot. And it's from the many, many years of loving our children at Northside. This year, when I asked her if she would like to try a new role, she said, "I'll do whatever you need me to do." And that's what she's done. I never really imagined that she would do as much as she's done in this, and I don't think she has either. But it's one of those things where if there's a need, she will fill it, and she does an amazing job at that. She's always willing to help. The thing that sets Tanya apart from anyone else is her heart. She has an extremely big heart for children and anyone that needs a helping hand. My parents would say that she was raised right, and so she clearly was. I know at Northside she will be sorely missed, but I also know that I can look out when I'm standing out at morning duty next year and wave at her. Actually, she might be asleep, but maybe at afternoon duty we'll wave at her. So hopefully she'll be in a rocking chair on her back patio somewhere. I hope you enjoy retirement. I appreciate all that you've done for Northside and our students and our staff. We will certainly miss you. And as one of our other teachers say in our building to the students on their way out, I'll say it to you later, love you, bye.
John Whitaker, Woodford County Middle School, and 5 years total. Kimberly Hartley, Huntertown Elementary, and 26 years total. Principal Elaine Kaiser, Huntertown Elementary, 32 years total.
Ms. Kaiser. Well, there's two of us, I think. So this evening, we get to celebrate some very special people, and I get the shared honor of recognizing Miss Elaine Kaiser. After a long career in elementary education, including 14 years here at Huntertown, Principal Kaiser is embarking on a well-deserved retirement. I've worked with Ms. Kaiser during her entire tenure here in Woodford, and have gotten to know her very well. I can say that I'm a privileged member of the cupcake gang that she and I were part of. After many meetings, we had to discuss whether there were allowed homemade or store-bought cupcakes at elementary birthday parties. Finally settled on store-bought. But her positive attitude, her pride in her school, and a tremendous heart for students have always stood out to me. Ms. Kaiser has created a warm and nurturing environment for countless students to learn and grow. After all, as you often hear her say, it's a great day at Huntertown. As many of you know. I was so pumped to get this shirt. Ms. Kaiser, on behalf of the entire Woodford community, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your passion, and for loving your students. We will miss you dearly, but we wish you all the happiness in the world during your retirement, which I know will be filled with plenty of hugs from that grandson. Congratulations, Ms. Kaiser.
I met Ms. Kaiser 3 years ago when I came here to interview, and it was a whirlwind day. I got to visit all the schools, and I'll never forget, we're walking down the hall together, and Ms. Kaiser says, "Now, we work really hard here." I'm not sure if she was warning me or giving me, telling me, "You don't want this job," but I will say this, Ms. Kaiser has worked very hard. In the last 3 years I've been here, we owe it to Ms. Kaiser because it has always been a great day at Huntertown. And she loves her kids. She is the epitome of this saying or the quote that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And Ms. Kaiser's always been great at that, from her kids to her staff. So thank you for what you've done for Huntertown, and thank you for what you've done for Woodford County. Thank you, Ms. Kaiser.
Pamela Craig, Northside Elementary, 31 years total.
So you gotta know this about Pam. She does not like being in front of people, so this is not her cup of tea right here, but we'll go pretty quickly, but it's certainly worth the time. When I first arrived at Northside, I did everything I could to get my feet under me. Oftentimes that meant being at the school around 5 a.m. to get things done and prepared for the day before students arrived. Every morning, Pam Craig was there running copies, organizing something for student learning or supporting a teacher in some way or another. She oftentimes was there beating me there. And this is the way Pam does business. Pam has been with Northside for over 30 years. She's seen us principals come and go. The one thing I've seen in my time at Northside with Pam is that Pam is a person you really want on your team. Pam is, she's proved to be knowledgeable, reliable, relatable to students, and a blessing to our school building. I can even speak for my own child who says, how do I get Miss Craig's class? How do I do that? I said, well, that would be me putting her in your class. And so the reality is there are so many students that Pam has impacted over the years in one way or the other. She is a very quiet person, but it is one of those people that everyone wants to be around and everybody wants to know. The amount of respect and appreciation that I and the entire Northside family and staff have for Pam Craig can never be verbalized. We will miss you dearly. We thank you so much, and later, love you, bye.
Billy Josie, Northside Elementary, 20 years total.
Billy's very much the same way, does not like to be in front of people, but we're gonna, like I said with Pam, this is well worth our time and you deserve to be celebrated. Billy is one of those people that always has a smile on her face. Her smile is infectious and oftentimes will bring one to you. Somehow, some way, she is always the person that can make your day better. She is always there for you, and she will always put that smile on your face. She's worked extremely hard with her students and was a steady figure within our building. The thing about Billy is that while she certainly did a great job with her instruction, behind the scenes, she was a great culture builder for our building. Within Northside, she was able to have just a small conversation here or there about her chickens or even bringing eggs to people. She would oftentimes, this time of year, enjoy taking those chickens home and putting them on her farm. And so she would bring the eggs back in the next year. So those little small conversations, whether we realize them or not, are what makes a culture a culture. Oftentimes people look at Northside and say they have a great culture. It's because of people like you. And her positivity has always been a warm and inviting place. She deserves a huge pat on the back and a big thank you from us for all of the hard work at Northside. I certainly want to be the first just to say thank you, and I hope you enjoy retirement, and later, love you, bye.
Next is Deborah McEwen, Huntertown Elementary, 27 years total.
Debbie also loves being the center of attention. She said to make it as long as I possibly could. So here we go. I want to recognize a very special person who has been an integral part of our school community. Debbie, our beloved Huntertown cafeteria manager, is hanging up her apron after an impressive 27 years of service. Debbie, working alongside you has been an honor and a privilege. You have always gone above and beyond to ensure everyone who walks through your cafe door leaves with a full stomach and a smile. Your sweet, caring, and thoughtful nature has not only made you an exceptional manager, but also a dear friend. Your dedication to providing nutritious meals for our students and ensuring that everyone is well fed and taken care of has never gone unnoticed. As you embark on this new chapter of retirement, we want to express our deepest gratitude for everything you've done for us. Your hard work, dedication, and passion for your job have impacted so many children, and we will miss you dearly. But we also know that you deserve this time to relax, unwind, and enjoy the things you love most, like your adorable grandson, Milo. Debbie, as you step into this new phase of your life, remember that retirement is not the end, but the beginning of a new and exciting journey. May you relish every moment and treasure every laugh and delight in every meal, especially the ones you no longer have to cook. Thank you, Debbie.
Our next retiree is Miss Cindy Patterson, Woodford County High School, 27 years total. From Northside Elementary, Denise Ratliff, 29 years total.
I promise we have some staff left. Denise joined us this year after many, many years of service in Eastern Kentucky. She has joined our second grade team, and it was almost as if she had been here all along. She meshed so well with that second grade team. I believe they started in the summer and went out and got some meals, but from day one, it was a group that worked very well together. I've really enjoyed Denise because she has an endearing personality to where she is always one of those people, similar to the others, that has that infectious smile. The positivity that you bring is also a culture builder for our school. The one thing I really also enjoyed about Denise this year is that she is amazing with kids. And that, to me, is one of the main things that you could do. If you want to impress me, be good with kids. And her kids love her. Her parents love her. Not all kids are as well behaved as we would want, but Denise does well with any kid you put in front of her. She was able to connect with all of our students. They loved her as much as she loved them. We were extremely lucky this past summer to bring you on to our staff, and we are sad that we can only get you for 1 year, but we certainly appreciated the 1 year that you were with us, and we know that you're certainly going to enjoy retirement, and we wish the best for you, and we thank you so much for helping us at Northside and our students and faculty. So later, love you, bye.
Next is Dina Beck, Huntertown Elementary, 27 years total. Frida Whitaker, Transportation, 6 years total. Mr. Dan Roof, Woodford County High School, 30 years total.
I'm going to try to keep it shorter. I'm trying. Dan is the bridge from yesteryear to the modern era. Dan chronicles WCHS as an English teacher turned media teacher. When you think about Terry Hamilton, Ken Tonks, Sue Churchill, and Adrian Cash, Dan has been around for all of their retirements, and now it's his turn. It's been said that many, many years ago, Dan once failed a philosophy class in college. Ever since, Dan's been trying to sharpen his philosophy skills by philosophizing the English department every chance he gets. They say they've come to accept it and almost ignore his attempts today, but that's because they know he'll just continue attempting to sharpen his skills. Dan's quite an adventurous person. He was the Adventure Club sponsor and took students on a trip around Europe in 2018 with Ken Tonks and Laura Benton chaperoning. This story comes from Ken. So, endure me, Dan. We took a group of students to England and France in 2018. We left on Easter weekend, and losing a day, we arrived late Saturday night. By the time we got everyone settled into their rooms, Dan and I were finally packing it in. We were to have a busy day on Sunday, so it was finally our time to rest. As I'm unloading stuff from my bag, I turn around to see Dan's bed full of every type of candies and chocolates. If that wasn't enough, he then pulls out fake grass, baskets, and colorful plastic eggs. The chocolate bunnies and jelly beans were everywhere. He had brought each student and every chaperone their own unique Easter basket. He didn't ask me to help, but I was so happy to see that he didn't want anyone to forget the day. I was thrilled to assist. It was a bit of a comedy of errors, sneaking around the hotel with the baskets. Well worth it when we saw how happy the students were in the morning. Not only had we flown halfway around the world over our spring break, Dan had made sure everyone had their own taste of home. That's my friend, Dan Roof, thinking of the little things that make a difference to people. All in all, Dan is loved tremendously by his colleagues and students at WCHS and will be missed. Dan, good luck in your retirement. If we could do anything for you, let us know, and we look forward to seeing where things take you in the future.
Pamela Hudson, Transportation Department, 11 years total. Ted Hunley, Transportation Department, 10 years to... Oh, I'm sorry, don't look behind me. Okay, again, this is Miss Pamela Hudson.
Okay, Miss Pam. Miss Pam was there at the bus garage when I arrived, and I was ever so grateful to have someone like her because I didn't know the routes. I didn't know Woodford County. So when I would drive, I would request Pam to go with me a lot to keep me straight. She's phenomenal with the children. She loves those preschool babies as they're her own, and the whole transportation department loves you, and I'm sure they're going to miss you terribly. But go out, have fun at the car shows, camping, right? And it was a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
You know, Kay, I think it's funny that you requested Pam, but you never gave me Pam whenever I was out driving and tried to figure out these roads. I think we did ride once together. Yes, one time. So Kay did give me one time with Pam, and I would agree. So I got another one for you. Ready? Okay, here we go. To our dear friend Pam, as you retire today and this year, we gather to send you off in a special way. Through every mile, you've guided a light. You've been a guiding light, making our journeys cheerful morning to night. With a smile that brightened every weary face, you made each ride a warm and welcoming place. Your kindness and care, a beacon so true, touched the hearts of all, both old and new. As you embark on this new chapter ahead, may it be filled with journey wherever you tread. May the memories we've shared forever stay, guiding you along in your own special way. Though the bus may carry on without your cheer, your spirit will linger forever near. From the bonds we formed will never fade, in the stories we'll tell and the memories we made. So here's to you, our dear friend Pam, and guide in retirement's embrace, may you abide. Thank you for all the love you've shown as we bid farewell to these 11 years with you.
Mr. Ted Hunley, the Transportation Department, 10 years total. Ms. Tamala Calmees, Simmons Elementary, 25 years total.
It is with great pleasure that I get to speak on the wonderful 25-year career, man, I'm always a crier, every time, that Tamala Calmees has had at Simmons. She has embodied what it means to be a Bulldog, and her contributions to our students over the years is unmatched. I first met Tamala in the fall of 2020, and have continuously joked about how I met her in her kitchen where she worked in the virtual academy. Over the course of that school year, I found myself more and more drawn to her ability to not only teach, but to do so with such a passion in a virtual setting. Her students wanted to be in her classroom, even on a computer. When I do my walkthroughs, I'd find myself lingering longer and longer in her classroom due to her ability to captivate her students, and apparently an administrator. When I moved to Simmons, it was immediately apparent that she was an even better teacher in person. Her ability to build relationships with students and create a positive classroom culture is unparalleled. She knows how to push the right buttons to motivate, knows when to celebrate a success, can sense when a student needs a hug or a pat on the back, and if they just need a minute. She is intentional, but it comes across as effortless. I told this story last week at a retirement celebration at Simmons, but it bears repeating. In the fall of last year, we had a student return to our building after being enrolled in another county in Kentucky. The student had a lot of areas of opportunity and needed someone that would provide structure, but also love on them. I went to Tamala to let her know that this placement, knowing full well this was going to massively impact her class culture and dynamic. Tamala would never turn away a student, ever, but it was clear when I told her that she was concerned. She assured me she would do all that she could for this student. Well, needless to say, the student has thrived in her classroom and is even being recognized next week at our end of the year awards ceremony. The award they are receiving is in no small part of the belief that Tamala had in the student. I told you I would. And their ability to achieve great things. This is my favorite part. Up until her final days, she's seen her career through. If that isn't a teacher you'd want your child to have, I don't know what is. But it's definitely a teacher I'd want in my building. We are sad to lose her as a teacher, but no, she will continue to be around as her children continue on at Simmons. Congratulations, Tamala, and as we say, once a Bulldog, always a Bulldog.
That concludes our list of retirees, and again, we can't say thank you enough. I just added it up, it's a total of 463 years of experience that's walking out the door with these individuals. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. So thank you again for your commitment to Woodford County students and Woodford County schools. With that being said, when I arrived, we were giving away a rocking chair. Since then, we have kind of transitioned into a barrelhead. What is a better retirement gift from Woodford County than a bourbon barrelhead? Do with it what you may. Either think of it as another way to enjoy retirement, or just hang it in a closet somewhere. But I don't see any of our retirees sitting in a rocking chair. And that's not what we want for their future. So enjoy your retirement. Live the rest of your life. Do the things that are fun for you. I know taking care of kids are, but God has other callings for you too. So enjoy and good luck with your retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins, Ms. Bailey. Moving on, our next item on our agenda is our Huntertown performance.
give another round of applause for our soloists. So the first song that we just sang was A Song of Peace. The next song that we'll be singing will be You Can Dance, You Can Sing. And the whole idea being that if you can walk, then you can dance. And if you can talk, then you can sing. And it doesn't really talk about how you can sing well, you can dance well, but it's all about the enjoyment of the music. So please enjoy our last song. Please give them another round of applause. This was Clementine Elementary Choir. At this moment, parents, if you are having to leave with your children, now would be the time to take them and exit out that way.
We're enjoying it. You can't separate us. Okay, let's go. All three. Yeah, that was because I wasn't really here. Dad, we're supposed to be taking cake. I didn't know that. Come on, yeah, that's what I was just about. That's what I was just about. I won't blow it.
Just a few more minutes.
Okay, thanks to all our 100-time kiddos. That was just beautiful, both those songs. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to item D on the agenda, which is our new high school project update. So with that, if Mr. Ratliff is in the building, we'll call him up.
I'm here. I feel like, I don't know if Sherman's gone, but somebody needs to compliment him and his team. These mechanical units are firing spot on, I think. So I hope it's the same manufacturer as the new high school. It's a good one. We've had, I think, a little less than a month, maybe 3 weeks since the last meeting, but it's been a very productive 3 weeks. We could use a little dry weather. These showers every couple days are, to really get anything done on the site at this point, you need at least a few dry days. Takes a couple days to dry, and then anything after that, you get work done. So there is ongoing site work, but hopefully in the next few weeks, we can get some dry spurts and start making some big changes out there. So that said, I'll go right into the financials. Only thing that's changed is the total construction cost billed to date, and that's through April. That's $44,846,604.81. That is 73% of the total contract billed, and the revised substantial completion date remains the same, November 25th of '24, and the final completion date is December 25th of '24. Contingency log remains the same. It's currently 74.14% remaining, which is $2,236,700.84. As always, that's the building areas and the sequence at which we're flowing in. In the past 30 days, in Area C, the storefront exterior doors, second floor voice and data, and access panels have all been completed. In Area E, restroom tile, first, second floor light fixtures, and first and second floor voice and data have completed. In Area F, the paint and block filler, domestic water insulation have completed, and the duct insulation is 80%. Area D, domestic water piping is complete, metal stud framing is at 95%, and the duct is at 95%. In Area A, the paint and block filler and domestic water piping are completed, and the first and second floor rough-in, electrical rough-in is at 95%. Area B, metal stud framing, above slab plumbing, and the domestic water piping are all completed. And site work, parking lot drainage is at 90%, site gas is at 50%, and site electrical is at 40%. 30-day look ahead, items that we plan to complete in the next 30 days in Area C, lab casework and fume hoods, institutional casework, and established permanent power. Area E, laboratory casework, storefront exterior doors, and institutional casework. Area F, duct insulation, sheetrock finishing, prime and paint of sheetrock, and exterior canopy. Area D, metal stud framing, metal duct, hydronic piping, and exterior canopy. Area A, first and second floor electrical rough-in, metal wall panels, and first and second floor wiring. Area B, first and second floor electrical rough-in, domestic water insulation, and exterior canopy. The site, this is the same as last month. We're somewhat being, the weather is keeping us from completing some areas. Again, it's not a huge deal. The sooner we can get it, the better, but there's still buffers, so it's not really shifting the end date. It's just the sooner that we can get some asphalt down, the better, for numerous reasons. But plan to place stone from the Tyrone to the Schoolhouse Road connection, and at the student faculty parking in preparation for asphalt base. We currently have that scheduled for Monday, but we'll see how the weather is the rest of the week. Complete sanitary extension to the track and field. Start curb and gutter at the student faculty parking, and install asphalt base from the connector road at the student faculty parking. Not a big change here as far as the exterior, except the canopies. Most of the exterior as far as the building is complete, so very minor differences at the front of the building. You'll see here on the east side, which is the gym and auditorium entrance, cafeteria, that the exterior canopy is going up and will be complete over the next month. They're currently putting a roof on it. northeast view. Biggest difference there is you'll see a little site concrete poured outside the entrances, and the exterior canopies have been installed. Not much change on the back. That was the first area complete. Over the next 30 days, hoping for dry weather, you'll see a lot of site grading going on in those areas. Biggest difference on the west side at the media center, you'll see that exterior canopy is now installed. That should be complete over the next month as well, and then the exterior sunshades are installed. And then there's just an up-close look at the canopy that's ongoing and the sunshades at the media center, and then the canopy at the gym and auditorium entrance on the student faculty parking side. There's just an overall site aerial. You can see the parking lots over there taking shape. Here is Area C. This is the laboratory casework has started being installed, so that's when things really start coming together, when you start seeing cabinetry and countertops and stuff like that going in, shelving. So same thing, laboratory casework. This is the art room at Area E. So that installation will be ongoing for over the next few weeks. Area F, there's the media center. The main thing going on in there right now is drywall finishing. And then the second floor corridor in Area F, you can see drywall finishing on the ceiling, and there's a lot of painting going on in that area. It also shows those skylights running down the corridor that brings in all the natural light to the building. Yeah, the flooring is under there. I think I've showed a few photos, a few glimpses of it, but it's all covered. It's being protected from damage, so that'll be there till basically the end of the project. So once we get some doors in there, which is roughly, I think it's towards the end of June is where that stands for some of the areas, C&E mainly, but at that point, we may take some up because we'll be able to control access in and out there, and most of the overhead work should be 100% by then. So, Area D, there's the kitchen. As you can see, the cooler and freezer. I can't remember if that was in, but I don't believe we showed a picture of it last month. So, the cooler and freezer is installed, and you can see all the overhead framing. A lot of overhead framing in that area for the size of area it is, and that'll all be drywall soffits and adds a neat dimension to the area. And then the admin area, it's hard to take a good picture in there because there's so many offices and so on, but there's a lot of above ceiling MEP ongoing, and then you can see the sheetrock is being installed as well. There's just a shot of the gymnasium, a different angle than you've seen, but not a lot's changed in there in the last 3 weeks, but as you can see, people are moving material in, and there's a lot about to start happening. So all the work's shifting from the C&E wing up towards the gym and auditorium. And there is when you walk in the student faculty from the parking lots, or call it the gymnasium auditorium entrance, there's a lot more duct work than there was 3 weeks ago, and as you'll see, the walls have block filler on them now, so that's the main work going on in those areas. And then the auditorium, you can see all those, that stud framing, those soffits running perpendicular in the auditorium. Those have been installed over the last couple weeks. For the track and field, total construction cost billed to date through April is $2,565,000. You messing with me, Josh? $119.29. Percent of contract complete is 70%. The revised substantial completion date, I've changed that to June 7th. There will be 7 weather days for March and April coming in the next round of paperwork. The rain is a killer there right now just because, I mean, it's all site work. Everything that needs to happen there is all site work. So again, it's pretty typical for this time of year, and hopefully we catch a break soon. But I went ahead and put those on there just so you know where it stands. And the revised final completion date is July 7th of '24. Contingency log remains the same. Remaining contingency, it's a little over 44%, which is $303,274.89. In the past 30 days, again, not a lot's changed, but this picture doesn't reflect it because it mainly started going on today, but stone placement is ongoing on that little pad you see in this area right here. They're placing stone right now in preparation for the concrete for the pole vault and long triple jump area. So that'll continue on, and then the site sanitary extension has continued as weather permits. They'll continue site concrete, continue on the sanitary extension and the pole vault, long and triple jump area. Here is the slimmed down version of the schedule. And I believe last month we were at a final completion of December 12th, so we're at the 15th right now. That'll always vary a little. As long as we don't get past the 25th, I feel good. So hopefully we can gain it back, though. The more the better, but right now it sits at the 15th of December. Any questions? Good. All right.
As
Thank you.
usual, thank you. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to our good news report, item E. If you all don't mind, I always go last. I'm going to go first, and then I'll mute myself again. First of all, I just wanted to say good luck to all our kiddos for all the end of the year activities, whether it be testing, end of the year, sporting activities, CTE credits, anything that you're doing. Good luck, and we wish everyone to have a great summer. It's hard to believe this is our last meeting before summer break. To our Woodford County High School graduates, the next time we see you, you're going to be in your cap and gowns. We're all going to be in our gowns, and it is literally my favorite day of the year. I love it, and I can't wait to see each and every one of you. And again, good luck to all of you, and good luck to your parents as you approach these final days. And then I wanted to wish a congratulations to all of our retirees, and best wishes for long, happy, healthy retirements. I think the nice thing about living in a small town like we do is that even though you're retiring, it certainly won't be the last time that any of us see all of you. So I look forward to seeing you all around town and continuing to engage and work with our kids. And then lastly, I feel like I owe a little bit of an apology to everybody that's sitting in the bleachers, because the view you have of me is gigantic, like terrifyingly gigantic. And it looks like I'm either the Wizard of Oz or Godzilla or something that's going to pick each one of the board members off their seats and snack on them. So apologies, but I've been laughing at that this whole meeting. So that is all that I have, and I will move on to Ms. Springate.
I think I would like to give my time to Connor. I'm not sure if you're going to be here next meeting in the summer, but I know there's a lot going on that you probably want to discuss. So I'm going to give you my time tonight, Connor.
I appreciate it. I want to start off by saying thank you to all of our administrators. I believe most of us are wrapped up with state testing, I think officially, and AP testing is wrapping up this week. We got a little bit more testing, but to all of our administrators and teachers, you guys are the ones that make it happen. Our central office people, you make it happen. I know it's a stressful time. But nevertheless, you guys continue to give 110% to the schools and the students, and we cannot wait to see those results later in the year. I wanted to give a huge shout out to one of our high school teachers. Miss Renee Boss is an English teacher at Woodford County High School and received the CKEC Innovation Educator Award, which is a huge deal. I just wanted to shout her out. She's truly a fantastic, dedicated teacher at the high school. She never gets enough credit, and when we thank her for her service and what she continues to do at the English department at the high school. We also today, Mr. Atkins and Mr. Brickler were there to see a very innovative project, if you will, called All Paths Lead Home, which was a experiential learning experience put on by over 60 seniors in Dr. Amber Surgent's History 210 History of Kentucky course, and we had 450 fourth graders from all the elementary schools there at Falling Springs today, and it was truly a wonderful day to see not only our seniors really take those leadership roles on, but to also show the kids that Kentucky is much more, even though we did have the KFC there, of course. Kentucky is much more than KFC and horses, and we really showcased that today, and we showcased every part of the Commonwealth and what makes us so special. And so I hope the fourth graders have a good time. I know all of the seniors had a good time. And just thank you to the Kentucky Department of Education, Midway University, and Dr. Amber Surgeon, of course, Woodford County Public Schools for supporting that initiative. And then last but certainly not least, it is graduation time. I also wanted to say congratulations to all of my fellow graduates of the class of 2024. It's truly been, I couldn't imagine graduating with anyone else. We've been through thick and thin together, but nevertheless, we stay strong and we stay committed to making the world a better place. And I think that's what makes our class super, super special. So to all the graduates, graduates. To all the graduates, congratulations. Yeah, I mean, we got two more weeks, guys. I just need to get through. But congratulations to all the graduates and to our retirees as well. You all especially deserve a fantastic retirement. I know especially Ms. Kaiser deserves one. She has truly changed my life as many other students that have walked through her hallways. So thank you again, Ms. Kaiser, for all you do. And yeah, thank you all so much, as always.
Thank you, Mr. Brumley. Mr. Brickler?
Yes, so I got to go to the event that he's mentioning, and I was so impressed with how these seniors were able to organize this. And it's not just that they showed up and put up some tents. They organized everything from the bus logistics, from the events. They did research projects on every single tent that they were going to have. They had over 17 locations of different topics that they were presenting to these 450 fourth graders. It was so impressive, not just that they did the work, but the example that they were setting for all of these young children. When you get to see, you're still kids to me because I'm old, but when you see these older kids teaching these younger kids how to be leaders, how to be intelligent, how to speak, because, public speaking is something that at some point you have to do. And it was just really amazing to see how impactful these students can be. And that goes to the teachers, the staff, that they have developed these young adults into these leaders that now just pass on those skills to the next generation. So thank you for putting all the work into that. It was amazing. So happy that I got to go see that today. I also want to say thank you to all the retirees. I wanted to give a special shout out to Miss Calmes, who was here. I think she was here, or not here anymore, but she was my oldest daughter's virtual teacher during COVID. And all parents, all students, all staff know that was a very difficult time for everybody. And because we had Miss Calmes as my daughter's virtual teacher, she made it work. She made us as parents feel like we were in it together. She made my daughter feel like she was still there and acknowledged and given attention. And that was not an easy task. And I know that so many other teachers were in that same boat. That's just what I got to see. So all the teachers that put in that work, that very difficult task during COVID, thank you so much. And again, Ms. Calmes, if you watch this streaming later, thank you very much. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mr. Brickler. Ms. Glass?
Thank you. I'm just going to use my time to thank Connor for his service on the board. I know Mr. Atkins always already did that, but Connor never failed to come prepared for a meeting and tell us all the happenings at the high school. And oftentimes he would tell us things that we might not hear about that was going on. And I know you're extremely busy and involved in everything, and I just wanted to appreciate your service. It's been an honor to serve with you, and I can't wait to see what your future holds, because I know it's going to be busy and exciting, and I can't wait to watch. So just best of luck to you and to your classmates.
Ms. McCowan?
Yes, just a busy time of the year, but I'm really thankful that I've been able to attend a few of the events that have been happening. Several of us got to go see Seussical Musical at Northside a couple of weeks ago, and that was a great production. I mean, all of the props, all of the time that, you know, volunteers and Miss Casimir and all of her colleagues spent to build those props and work with the kids. It was really amazing. Same thing with Legally Blonde. I was telling Miss Glass earlier, I have never even seen that movie, but I saw the play at the middle school and I was like, oh, this is all I need, a little snapshot of it. But they were great. They were so professional. So I really enjoyed that as well. And also got to attend a celebration for the FFA students. They had their banquet last week at the Duckworth Farm, and that's such a nice event. I didn't know a lot about the FFA growing up. I wasn't involved in that, but I had friends that were. But I really appreciate being able to go to the banquet and just spend some time with those kids, because it's really amazing all that they do. I mean, they're public speakers. They are learning about sales and marketing and agriculture and, you know, farm life, mechanics, things of that nature. I mean, it's really amazing what they do. They are all wonderful speakers, so I'm really proud of that program, and proud of the teachers and all the families that are involved with that. And then lastly, I just would like to say, if you can, mark your calendars for the Versailles Juneteenth celebration. It's on Friday, June the 14th, from 5:30 to 10 at the new pavilion behind Court Street. And then on Saturday, June the 15th, from 3 to 8:30 p.m., the celebration will be at Huntertown Community Interpretive Park. That's always a fun event, and it's two full days. So if you can make time to go out there, it'll be a great time. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Brumley, no need to let you go last because you've already gone, but thank you. I want to echo Ms. Glass's comments. You've been an absolute pleasure to have as part of our team, and we wish you the best of luck in the future, and we know it's not the last we will be seeing of you. Okay, moving on, we go to our Huntertown presentation, which is Ms. Kaiser.
So I get to split my time today because one of the things that we talk about a lot in this district is the Portrait of a Learner. And so our leadership team has done a lot this year around the Portrait of a Learner, and they have a project that they are currently involved in that highlights the responsible contributor. They have done a project that I'm going to let them talk a little bit about, but I hope that you are impressed with the hard work of these kiddos. Amarion, you're up.
Good evening, Woodford County Public Schools, Mr. Atkins, Ms. Kaiser, board members, and special guests. My name is Amarion Reed, and welcome to Huntertown Elementary. On behalf of the 5th grade leadership team, we would like to invite you to embark on a journey of discovery, where we tell the captivating story of Huntertown, an African-American hamlet or free town that was established in the aftermath of the Civil War. This community service project began after we met Miss Sue Finney during Read Across America Week, where she was a guest community presenter. We worked closely with Ms. Finney, a retired Woodford County history teacher, for several months to learn how to be responsible contributors within our community. In this video, we pay tribute to our rich past and help tell the story of creating an interpretive park in order to preserve Huntertown's historic legacy. Our sincere gratitude goes to our community sponsor, Smoky and Sunshine Excavating, Inc. If you're inspired to contribute to this park through volunteering or donations, please visit www.huntertownkypark.org. Unearth and embrace our shared narrative. History is our story.
Hey guys, what's over there? I don't know. Let's go see. I think this is the Huntertown Community Interpretive Park.
Huntertown was an African-American free town in Woodford County, settled after the Civil War. For 130 years, Huntertown was a tight-knit community. Here, freed African-Americans and their descendants lived the American dream. The Huntertown Community Interpretive Park will recreate using paths, signage, and vegetation, the actual layout of this historic American community.
This is a very special place because this is the only remnants of a house that was left. This was Miss Geraldine's house. Another thing that makes this land special is around this property, they found a World War II dog tag that belonged to a man named Fred D. Jackson.
How did you feel when they found your father's World War II Army dog tag?
It was very emotional for me. The things that I'm finding out about my dad has touched me deeply. And when they presented, when Sue told me about it, and then we had a little ceremony where the kids presented that dog tag to me, it was just so emotional. I started crying. But my brother said I'm a crybaby because I get emotional when we talk about my dad. Also, it was important to me because I was in the Army and I wore a dog tag. To find my father's dog tag meant so much to me. And so it's in my house, it's well preserved, and I look at it every now and then just as a reminder.
Would you share us some of the challenges that you faced growing up in the Huntertown community?
Yes, well, my name is Geraldine Berry, and we did face a lot of challenges because we didn't have a bathroom. We had to go outside. We didn't have running water, and we had a coal stove for heat, and we had coal oil for our lamps. We could light up the lamps.
What was it like growing up in Huntertown?
It was fun. We played horseshoe. We did marbles. We hung up inside trees. We rode our bicycles. So we stayed busy, having fun. And we would hike. And then we had fruit trees in the yard. We had apple. We had cherry. We had all kinds of fruit trees, which we had fun eating all the fruit. And it was a fun place.
Welcome to the unique trails of the Huntertown Community Interpretive Park, where you are able to experience the sounds of our past. Huntertown Soundwalk provides you with an audio tour along the interpretive signage trail with the Echoes app for both Apple and Android phones. This feature helps you experience the sounds of nature. If you have any questions, contact us at huntertownkypark@gmail.com.
Do you care to share your favorite memory of living in the Huntertown community?
Well, I remember that I used to ride my bicycle to all the neighborhood kids, go to their house, have fun. And I used to go to a music teacher, and she taught me piano lessons. And also, I used to, when I was a kid, I worked in tobacco. I said tobacco. Yes. So that was, we had a lot of fun in there. There were some nice people that lived in Huntertown.
So what legacy would you hope to leave about Huntertown?
The best you could be.
My name is Josephine Elizabeth Carr. I am 94 years old. I was born April the 23rd, 1930. This is Huntertown, and I was born, raised out here. And neighbors, as children, I played up and down this road. Then, after I got married, my children even played up and down this road. We cut wild greens out here, all the best wild greens. And, sometimes that's all we had for supper was wild greens and cornbread. And when I die, I want the ambulance to bring my body on out here and circle all around and come on through and go on out and carry me on up the graveyard.
At the Huntertown Interpretive Park website, you can get involved by going to the page, and it says how to donate, how to volunteer, and you can also regularly just go and pick up weeds, or you can pick up trash around the area. Do you have anything, Ms. Suman?
That's the great, all the things you said are absolutely great. And our website is www.huntertownkypark.org. And there'll be a place there where you can click on it to donate or click on it to sign up to volunteer, because we have volunteer work days on Saturdays, and people come out and we do all sorts of things, from picking up weeds, like you said, trying to get rid of invasive species in the park, pick up trash, all sorts of things. So we would love for everybody to come out and just enjoy the park. We've got picnic tables, we've got benches, we've got the walking trail with all the signs, and we just can't wait for more people to come discover this place. And I'm so glad you all were here to help us too.
Let's keep going!
No offense, but if you still think
See, that's why I wanted to share my time, because I could just get up here and say, and that's our school. Didn't they do a wonderful job? So, as you all know, we are at Huntertown, and it is always, thank you, Ryan Asher, a great day at Huntertown. We had our fifth graders, and this is, I think, the third year that I've done this. Just tell us a little bit about what Huntertown means to them. I'm not going to read all of these, but you are welcome to look over them. These are comments that were pulled out of what they added. Some of them are, it's a beautiful school. We are encouraged. We're accepted and loved. It's joyful, it's fun, it's happy, it's a caring place. That is what we try to do at Huntertown every day. On the morning announcements, the one thing that I say to the kids as I'm finishing the announcements is,
oh, thank you, Jacoby. I was about to lose it there.
and remember that you are loved. So we hope that every child that walks these hallways, regardless of anything else, in the words of fifth graders and in the words of their principal, know that they are loved. So just a few things to celebrate this year. We always have to create our goals or our big rocks. We focused this year on the Portrait of a Learner and deeper learning. Just being more restorative with our PBIS structures, our PLCs, and working hard with those assessments, and focus on our ELL, because last year
Our ELL scores were not what we wanted to see. So first of all, Portrait of a Learner, it is more than just a symbol that is on all of our emails and our letterheads and our PowerPoints. It is engaging kids in their own learning, going deeper with what we do. So there's a few examples up there. We wanted to focus a lot this year on kids getting into the work, owning their own learning, and also being able to talk about what they're doing. You will see a couple of examples up there of where kids are having to share. One that I like is in the top right-hand corner, which was the entrepreneurial fair. They had to create something and then sell it. So one of the big focuses this year was on the Portrait of a Learner and making sure that students are able to communicate, making sure that they are able to problem solve, and that they are fully engaged in their learning. Something that is happening this week, it's not on the pretty pictures because it's coming up, is every grade level is doing student-led conferences. So if you have nothing to do on Wednesday night and Thursday night, you are welcome to show up. I think I invited Elaine Bailey to 5th grade. But starting in kindergarten and going all the way up, they are owning their data, and so they are going to present to their parents their data this year, their learning, and some of the things that they have accomplished this year. So that is part of our culminating activity this year, and that will be Wednesday and Thursday. So it's not up there in pictures, but it is a lot of what we have been doing. And I'm very excited about those. The second thing that we focused on big this year was, we've done PBIS for several years, but this year was just making it more restorative. Sometimes we're very quick to punish, but when a child does something wrong, it's another learning opportunity. So we implemented community circles, which is a positive way to start the day, where if you see up there at the top, every child gets down on the floor with the teacher, and they either have a conversation starter or they share what's going on with them. So every grade level had those every day, just so students are more comfortable, number one, going back to that Portrait of a Learner with that communication piece, but also being able to share how they're feeling. And it's amazing when you're having those conversations what students will share. And sometimes it's just accepting that, if a child says, it stormed last night and I was scared. And you've got another child sitting there, it's like, oh, well, he was scared too, so I guess it's okay for me to admit that I'm scared. And it just creates that community in the classroom where they are more comfortable talking to each other and sharing how they're feeling. So that was one of the big pieces that we started this year. We had some classes that were doing it last year, but not school-wide. Another thing is we focused a lot on rebound groups, and that was with our guidance counselor. So what rebound was, if a child was really struggling with one of the 3 offenses I put up there, which was emotional regulation, peer conflict, or just making good choices, he would meet with them, grade levels together, on Friday, and they would go over one of those topics. It could be a video they watched together and then responded to. It might just be a circle where they shared how they were feeling. There were some larger issues that they had to do several weeks of a workbook together on that topic, just so that they are learning about how to regulate their emotions, learning about peer conflict, and not, I think the word I put at the bottom was punitive, so that we're not having punitive
discipline, we are trying to learn and teach them just like we would with reading or writing. So that has been a big change this year, and I met with our guidance counselor this week, and he said, I feel like we don't have as many repeat offenders because they are learning before getting to that step. So I do feel that has been a positive change this year. Amy Oates, when we were looking at data, said, I see a lot of under marking what punishment a child had, and it was other consequences. And if we mark that, that means that it was a restorative practice. So we worked with them on what they were struggling with, not gave them some kind of punishment. So that has been or consequence, that's a better word. That has been a positive change in our building this year, and I think the students have responded well to it. We have to talk about data anytime we're in a school because that's why we do what we do. So this year we had a renewed focus on PLCs, thanks to Ryan Escher and the district. So the teachers came back with a renewed excitement to work together and create assessments so that we could look at data, so that we could track the data and make sure that each child was getting what they deserved and what they needed. So Mrs. Nugent, who I think is still here with her boo-boo, led that, and she worked really hard with those teams to ensure that they understood the standards, were able to teach to the standards, and then create the assessments that helped them track if the students understood the standards. It was a lot of work this year, but I will tell you that the teachers really dug in, and they did some wonderful work. Another thing that helped us with understanding our data was iReady. I think you all have probably heard about that wonderful, wonderful program. Students are sometimes inundated with computer programs. We had Lexia, and we had Dreambox, and we had this, and we had that, and we had Reading Plus. So to make sure that they understood that this is a big deal, this is the one we want you to focus on, this is the one that if you don't do anything else, this is what we need you to do. Mrs. Nugent and the intervention team got together and created a motivation plan. If you look at the picture, it said, I, ready, set, go. So students worked extremely hard to hit milestones. Oops, it's at the bottom, I just couldn't see it up there. So the milestones were if they hit 25 lessons as an average of the whole class. So some kids that might struggle might not get to that 25, but you might have Connor sitting there who's already gotten 75. So average it together and we all got there. So it was good for team building because we're going to work together to do this. So when they got milestone 1, they all got a blow up, pop. Milestone 2, they got those cool stickers you put on your water bottles. Milestone 3, they got pizza parties and all the way up. The big one was one class got to go to the movies, but it had to be the one class that made it to the end first. So that class is going on Friday. But there's other classes, when they hit that milestone of 125, they get to go to the prize store and shop. And we've got some cool prizes. So even your children who may be less able to perform, it's part of a group. So we are pulling each other along. It isn't just celebrating that one child who is the overachiever. So we feel like that has been really motivational in our building. There's some pretty pictures of kids, and one of them was a slime party, and you can tell they were loving the slime party. Another way that they tracked their lessons that they finished was on some kind of picture that they got to color in. It was a pumpkin, it was a snowman, it went seasonal.
So celebrations, the highest math growth in the building for the year was a first grader with 118 points growth. A first grader. The highest reading growth was a kindergartner with 124 points growth. Miss Montgomery's class, like I said, was the first one to get to 125, so they get to go to the movies on Friday. But every student followed their path, every student. So this is a class at the bottom that filled up their pumpkin. So let's talk about what that really means. So they can do iReady, but how does that help them? So here's our data from fall to spring. For the whole school, in the fall, we had 33% of our students in the whole school on grade level. In the spring, when we took the same test, we had 71% on grade level. Kindergarten went from 23 to 89. First grade, 20 to 73. Second grade, 29 to 68. Third grade, 49 to 67. Fourth grade, 37 to 62. And then fifth grade, 36 to 64. That's a lot of growth in reading. That was a lot of lessons, and I do attribute a lot of it to that motivation. They wanted to see their car move when they were in the cafeteria. They wanted to know that their class was getting to blow pop and getting to play with slime, which is messy. Right, Miss Nugent? Messy. So math diagnostic, very similar, whole school on grade level 24% in the fall, and now 71%. Kindergarten, 23 to 82. Look at that kindergarten. They smoked it, didn't they, Connor? First grade, 17 to 68. Second grade, 12% on grade level and up to 65. Third grade, 18 to 61. Fourth grade, 39 to 78. And fifth grade, 39 to 75. Our students worked their fannies off, but they enjoyed it because they knew that they were together, they were doing it as a group, and they were going to be celebrated as a group, but they were each doing their path. Mine may not be the same question that someone else's was, but it was on my level. So I can still accomplish it on my level. So that was a great celebration, but here's another one. Remember I said that our ELL was a deficit last year? If you look at what's in front of you, our EL progress indicator last year was 45, and this was on KSA. We just got back our access scores, and it is 71 this year. There's a lot that attributes to that, but one of the things that our EL teacher did, Ms. Simmons, is she took the data very personal. And so she made some changes. She did a little bit more co-teaching instead of pull out in the upper grades. So she was very intentional with meeting the needs of those kids. And I can't say enough good about what is in front of me. I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud of our students. We had several students that exited according to Access, and it's a lot of hard work to get there. So extremely proud of her and the work that our kids have put in. Final slide. To this community and each of you, thank you deeply for your support throughout the journey we've shared together over the past 14 years. With a heart filled with both gratitude and a touch of sadness, I leave behind my cherished role as principal at Huntertown, trusting that I leave Huntertown in the most capable hands of Ryan.
I carry with me the assurance that Woodford's spirit will forever resonate within me, and I will forever remember, once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. And remember that you are loved. Questions? I always forget that part.
Thank you for everything that you've done here. And listening to what you have put into place with getting away from punitive responses to finding other solutions to looking at the data for the reading and making those changes to double the scores that you have, it takes so much flexibility to be successful in education, and you've really shown that with everything you've shown us today, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. I wanted to say, I thought that the presentation that the fifth grade leadership students did was amazing. I mean, that was really incredible work, and very proud of them for doing that.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for having us tonight.
That's one of the reasons that I made sure that they were included. I was like, I'll cut my time short just for them.
Just thank you again for all of your years of service, and you're just a person who cares, and that means a lot, and it's meant a lot to this community. And once a Wildcat, forever Wildcat could not live on more or be embodied in a person more than you. And so we just thank you again, and thank you for inspiring me as you did many others over your 14 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kaiser, just on behalf of the McHale family personally, you know, both my boys came up through Huntertown from the beginning. I think Luke might have been your first or second class. First class when you started. So we've obviously gained a lot from you being in the school. We want to say thank you. We love you. We will never forget you. And to anybody that is looking for something interesting to do, going to that Huntertown Interpretive Community Park is amazing. We are so lucky to have that in our community, and they are constantly having restorative and beautification volunteer opportunities. So I would encourage everybody, check out the Facebook page. I couldn't get most of the audio, unfortunately, on the video, but it looked amazing. So I'm not sure if I'm saying something that's already been said, but there are always opportunities to help out at the park. And it's just a wonderful place to go take a walk, learn some history, and learn a little bit about our community. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, the bottom of my family's heart, for everything that you've done. I'm very sorry I couldn't be there. Now I'm gonna start getting teary here. I'm very sorry that I couldn't be there personally tonight, but I will see you on Saturday at your open house. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Kaiser, real quick, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for caring, and thank you for loving all of our Woodford students.
Can we have a little short break? I think people are leaving now. Maybe it's a good time for just a quick run to the restroom break.
Can you hear us, Ms. McHale?
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute recess? 6 minutes. We'll reconvene at 8 p.m. I cannot hear you, Mr. Asher. I don't know if your microphone's on or not.
I was just talking to myself saying, I'm ready, let's roll.
Good thing it was not.
He was being his own hype man. He was.
You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
So I will call the meeting back into session, and we will move into item G, our instructional equity report with Mr. Asher.
All right, very good. I know that we're 2 hours in, still have a lot of business to go, so I'll try to be very succinct with this, efficient with my time. So hello once again, 164th instructional day, just today. This is the third month in a row, if not more, that I've been queued up on the Deeper Learning Portrait of a Learner. You remember we heard that at Southside about the direction they're going. We heard it at Northside, and now you saw some prime examples, and we heard some prime examples of the high school going on. So you can really see how those competencies we talk about of collaboration, communication, problem solving, resilient learner, so on and so forth, all play into those, and it's really exciting to figure out what next steps we're going to do with that. One of those next steps, I mentioned it before, is our Woodford Wins Community Partner Network. We held our second informational session on that recruiting event of sorts on April 25th at the library. Ms. McCown attended. It wasn't as well attended as our first one, which was more of the daytime through the chamber, which to be expected, but we had our brief 15 to 20 minute presentation, but then we had about 30 minutes of discussion with the folks in the room, and it was very rich discussion, very much wanting, yes, on board, but what do we do next? So we do have a next step. I'm actually going to partner with a neighboring district who has something very similar and have been on a journey that we've done. A community, local business owner in Shelby County, actually, that's going to meet with this team, several representatives, to talk about their story and his involvement. He's also a member of Pritchard Committee, so he gets it. So it'll be exciting to, like I said, hear his story and kind of help us brainstorm and come up with some ideas for what that looks like here in Woodford. All right, currently, as has been mentioned a couple times, we're nearing the end of KSA, Kentucky Summative Assessment. We're down to 5th and 8th grade with their writing assessment tomorrow. And as the others are all into makeups at this time, if anybody had missed for whatever reason. I do want to mention, and Connor mentioned, just all that goes into testing. It's not just you log into the computer and take it. There are so many logistics, rules, and regulations that go into that. Susan Tracy is our DAC, District Assessment Coordinator, and has done a great job working with BACs, who are building assessment coordinators, and then on down to the teachers. Everybody's got a script that they have to follow. It is very intensive, and nobody wants to mess up. So there's a lot that goes into it. But overall, very smooth operations, and we'll be glad to get that wrapped up and excited to see the results in the fall. Summer school, I mentioned that last time. We will continue to have the middle school will be our hub for both elementary and middle school programs. Elementary, we've settled on, it will again be a 6-week program. Just the way the calendar falls this year, there'll be 4 weeks in June and 2 in July. Continued focus on reading and math, foundational skills, as well as social emotional learning. Really, one of the major emphasis is just keep them engaged, like keep them in books, right? Keep their nose in a book, keep them brushed up on skills over the course of those 6 weeks. And we will again be doing the Kentucky Equity-Based Tutoring Program. That's the partnership with Pearson that I've mentioned many times. It's gone so well, we're continuing in another summer with them. That actually provides prescribed intervention for identified students, and along with that are not the intervention resources and the human resources, the tutoring support to deliver those. Middle school, high school, and Safe Harbor, all of their summer program will be focused on credit recovery or making up failures for middle school, so those numbers have yet to be determined. The lower the better on that for obvious reasons, but they'll be running theirs over the course of summer as well. One last thing I wanted to touch on is our ELL program. You heard Ms. Kaiser talk some about that tonight. You'll see a request from me to add a certified position. Although it's still working within our budget that we have for our ELL program. I put some numbers in there, and just to reiterate those, we are up from, we are plus 62 in 3 years' time of overall students across the district, of students that are EL, or English Language Learner. And then most significantly, and really is much more time intensive and needs more support are those newcomers. Newcomers are new to the country with very little or no English, and that has literally doubled in 3 years' time, more than doubled, I should say, from 23 to 54 this current year. So that position is very much needed because not only is there an instructional part, there also is a lot of paperwork that goes with it. They have individual plans that go with that. So that explains that request I have tonight under personnel. With that, that concludes my report. If there's any questions. All right, hearing none, I'll sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asher. Okay, moving on to item 6. This is our opportunity for audience and public comment. We have 3 folks signed up today for public comment, first of which is Mr. David Graves. And Mr. Graves, we've got 3 people today, so I'm going to have to keep you to a limit of 5 minutes.
Hello? Oh, I guess it works. Well, I know you all just riveted to wonder what I'm up here asking about. And that's part of it, actually. Glad you mentioned some raises. Teachers were wondering, and we'd heard rumors. But we still kind of would like to try to keep up with cost of living a little bit, because I'll be honest with you, it's hard for me to make bills myself. And I feel like I'm making a fairly decent wage, or at least what I used to think it was. And also, I don't know if we'll ever reach a time when teachers don't have to have multiple jobs to make it anymore. I hope so, but we'll see. And that's statewide. And I feel kind of bad for you all up here because you are being handed the job of giving raises when it really truly should be our state legislatures that's doing it and providing the funding for it. But I think with the leadership we got right now, or most of the leadership we got right now, it's being handed off to somebody else, which is you all. And I hope that goes away sometime soon. And I'm up here to ask for one more thing, and it is about money, I guess, but it's more related to Woodford County bass fishing. I was wanting to ask you all eventually about looking into getting a Woodford County bass fishing boat. I know that'd be an extreme thing, but bass fishing has really taken off as a sport. And Mr. Atkins, if you want to, we'll get a wrap, put it on your new boat, Woodford County bass fishing on the side of it. I'm not volunteering you, I promise. But I don't know if y'all have seen any of the pictures lately, but we just had a group of kids finish first down at Kentucky Lake out of about 60 boats. And for someone to go from this end of the state to all the way to the other end of the state and win a tournament, it's huge, because in bass fishing, home court advantage is a huge advantage because you fish those waters all the time. But I'm going to come and I'm going to ask eventually about a boat for us. Some schools have provided boats for their teams, like Lincoln County, which they have about 60, 70 kids. They have one boat. Most of the parents in this sport provide their own boat. And I'll be honest with you, I guess that's about all I got to say, if you can believe that. Wasn't too much about money, I guess. Just a boat. No big deal. You know what boat stands for, right? Break out another 1,000. Y'all have a good
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Graves.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Ms. Hope Brown.
Good evening. Please excuse me an anecdote that does have a purpose. 2 weeks ago, I met with a UK professor who invited me to partner with her to conduct professional development sessions on culturally relevant teaching and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about what we wanted in the sessions, the format, as well as our audience. She then asked me, how much do you expect to be paid to research and conduct these sessions? I was stunned, because let's face it, I'm not used to being asked that question. And I was thinking to myself, well, I get $25 an hour for tutoring. And then she turns to the colleague that was with me and says, this is what I expected. When you ask teachers how much they expect to get paid, they stutter. When you ask a businessman, a business person, they have a number on the tip of their tongue. She turned back to me and then said, you need to know your worth. This anecdote isn't just about me. It reflects a larger issue that affects educators everywhere. Too often we find ourselves undervalued and unsure of our worth in a system that should recognize our dedication and expertise. I stand before you today advocating for a pay raise for all certified and classified staff in Woodford County. My own background gives me a unique perspective. You see, I gained some notoriety for appearing on the cover of Time magazine for being an underpaid teacher. This is not the kind of recognition that any teacher desires. I never expected teaching to make me wealthy, but I did believe it would provide me with stability and to be part of the middle class. My mother, with only an 8th grade education, worked tirelessly throughout her life. She encouraged my sister and myself to go to college, and she was thrilled when we both decided to become teachers. She believed this would give us a better life than she had, or than we had growing up. My mother worked physically demanding factory jobs because she had a limited education and believed that being teachers would mean that her daughters would be professionals. Even though my mom never went to high school or college, she never found herself in the position to needing to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. This is not the case for her daughters. Teaching should not condemn us to financial insecurity. It should uplift us and provide a path to stability and prosperity. I still believe in the ideals of the teaching profession. We as educators are not just employees. We are mentors, guides, and champions of our students' futures. We devote ourselves to their growth, both academically and personally, often extending beyond the school day to ensure their success. I welcome you to come into our school and see the dedication of our ESS team, our coaches, our fine arts departments, and class sponsors. I want you to see the time they dedicate to this community. And yet, despite the immeasurable impact we have on the lives of our students, we find ourselves grappling with the harsh reality of inadequate compensation. We work tirelessly for our profession only to find our efforts met with indifference from our state legislators when it comes to our financial well-being. Furthermore, we must recognize the impact of inflation. A raise that does not exceed the current inflation rate of 3.5% is not truly a raise. A stagnant salary in the face of rising costs essentially amounts to a pay cut in real terms. I urge you to use the increase in SEEK funding given to the state legislature to the district to let personnel know that you know our worth by giving us the compensation we deserve. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Our final public comment is from Ms. Mona Romine, sorry.
In the corporate world, folks often say, time is money. It's easy to rationalize that. When the company makes money, employees benefit from raises, bonuses, and stock options. The equivalent saying in education could be, you don't go into teaching for the money, but the truth is that an expert, innovative teacher seeks both a good work environment and to prosper from their work, and there is no shame in that. Expert educators often leave the classroom for more prosperous jobs within the education sector or outside of education altogether. Our students need these quality educators in their learning environments. In order to retain expert teachers, we must ensure their financial security. There are other components to educator job satisfaction, to be sure, but tonight we address the financial stability of the gold standard employees of Woodford County. I'll be giving a bit of history, so hang with me. According to the Chain Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, which is the CPIU, prices increased by 7.8% between 2021 and 2022. This index is used by the census and resulted in the largest cost of living adjustment applied by the Census Bureau since 1981. The Social Security Administration issued an 8.7% cost of living adjustment in 22, with 3.2% cost of living increases in 23 and 24. Although we don't receive Social Security, prices increase for us just as they do for the other consumers. To parallel this to our wages, Woodford County teachers received a 0% raise in 2020-2021 school year, a 2% raise in 21-22, and another 2% in 22-23. As students would say, this math doesn't math. Please understand that we all appreciate the 5% raise. It was significant acknowledgement of the need to compensate teachers well. Please don't give up that idea. Don't back off of significant raises in favor of COLA increases. Teacher raises must focus on competitive entry-level pay as well as pay that allows us to retain teachers with experience who provide leadership and support for those who are beginning in the classroom. That mentorship is key in having happy teachers who grow to love the classroom rather than love to grow out of it. I know that we lose teachers to higher paying districts in the last 3 to 5 years of their careers. It's a plan to make retirement wages more livable. I get it, but I'm not asking that we match or beat Fayette and Jefferson counties, but adjust to make that disparity less significant. There are several factors that come into play when considering a move to a big district, but the reasons to stay have more influence when the reason to leave is less significant. I sincerely do thank all of you for the 5% raise we received for this school year. It mattered. It helped. It gave a sense of importance to what we do. I hope I speak for the teaching collective as I fully acknowledge that you looked out for us and you valued our financial stability. Now I challenge you to take a hard look at the seat funding and find a matching or better raise for the 24-25 school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. Moving on, item 7, can I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Mr. Brickler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 3-2. Can I have, moving on to our regular agenda, can I have a motion to accept notification of personnel matters?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
a second by Mr. Brickler. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 board meeting?
Did we miss one?
Payment of bills is next.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did this one. Can I have a motion to accept notification of payment of bills?
So moved.
Second.
That was a motion by Mr. Brickler and a second by Ms. Glass. Any discussion?
I have just one question, and I'm sorry I didn't think to email it before, but Mr. Smith, on the bill warrants that we get each week, I noticed one the week of April the 20th through April the 29th, and it was for the Jessamine County Board of Education for $30,000. I was just curious about what that was.
That's who we do our
Adult ed.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1. Now can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 board meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass. I will second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the KU easement at the new high school?
So moved.
Ms. McCowan, that was you?
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Ms. McCowan, second by Ms. Glass. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the pledge of collateral?
So moved.
That's a motion by Mr. Brickler,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve the audit contract?
So moved.
That was a motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowan. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to double check. How many years have we had this same audit company?
I think this will be the second.
Three.
Third.
Year, yeah, our other group.
I think this would be the third year, though, right?
FY '25 will be the third year
Third
for
year,
Summer
yeah.
Security.
This will be the third year.
And are we planning on rotating the, I guess, the lead person out?
Well, that's a 5-year rotation for the audit partner. We'll probably have to put that out for bid. I think they've indicated that they're reducing their workload, so I think it's highly probable after next year we'll have to put that out for bid for another company anyway.
Thank you.
Maybe not, but possibly. So.
Thanks.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to approve personnel changes, update, and job descriptions?
So moved.
That was a motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
a second by Mr. Brickler. Any discussion?
Ms. McHale, I wondered if we could take these job by job or request by request to review them instead of trying to review them and approving them or denying them all in one lump sum.
We cannot change the agenda for tonight, so the agenda item is to approve the personnel changes, updates, and job descriptions as they were given to us. We can certainly discuss them if you have questions on them, but we would vote as a whole. Discussion on this?
Yes, I wondered if we could talk a little bit about, I know that there, maybe just hear a little bit about each of them, but I know that there are several that are related to special education needs and kind of adjusting and flexing the hours for our occupational therapists and speech therapists. The main question that I had, I think there were a couple, let's see.
Mr. Atkins, I can't see who's in the audience. Is Ms. Francis in, or would Mr. Wells?
She's coming.
Okay,
I'm
good.
here.
Thank you.
Could we talk a little bit about the district ARC chair?
Yes.
And why that, how is this different? This is a brand new position.
It is a new position to this district. Every district around us pretty much has one. They're called different things depending on what district they are in. It has different titles. Currently, our principals chair our ARCs for us or others as deemed appropriate per board approval. I usually put those names before the board during the summertime as we hire people, so I know who needs to be approved for those positions. With the focus of the Portrait of a Learner and really taking the principals into the role that they're meant to be in, which is to lead that academic work within their buildings. It's very hard for them to continue to chair all of these ARCs. There's a lot of meetings. Our ARC referrals have increased.
the number of people moving to our district with disabilities, students with disabilities, that has increased. And then if a parent requests an ARC, we hold an ARC. And I'm going to be honest, since COVID, we have multiple ARCs a year for just one student. And it's a lot on the principals and the teachers. We do have lead teachers in the building, but at the elementary level, they all have caseloads, and it's very hard for them. They cannot do both of those. So that is, that's the reason behind it, is it's just too much for the principals to do both things and do it to fidelity, meaning I have to ensure that we are following compliance through IDEA and ADA. All that kind of just comes together, and we want to make sure that all children get what is due to them and they are provided FAPE, and that all parents' questions and concerns are addressed, but also staying in compliance. So it's a legal situation as much as it is a workload. The workload does not allow for principals really to take that legal stance, because we want them in the role of academics, and they have a different leadership role in the district. So
How would the district, how would the person who does this job, how would they be delegated out?
They would be itinerant, and they would go between the 4 elementary schools. Currently, we already have someone chairing ARCs. We have a lead teacher that chairs ARCs at the middle school and one at the high school. They do not have caseloads because it's too much, and we want to ensure that we're doing what's right for kids. And so they would go between the 4 elementary schools. There is a little caveat in there in the SLP world, which is speech and language world. I have another person that chairs the majority of their ARCs. So that group would be chaired by the person that currently chairs them. And then this would really focus on our LBD MSD population at the elementary level.
Okay, and just one more question. The funding source for this one?
Well, that is, there is something called maintenance of physical effort, and there is need versus caseload numbers. I'm going to be honest, the funding would come from wherever Mr. Atkins and Shane and I look to see where it is that it's going to come from. I'm not sure at the moment. Mr. Smith could probably tell you more of that. I just know that we are starting the year very tight, meaning at the elementary levels, all of our teachers can only have 15 students on their caseload. There's several schools starting with students as high as 15, 14, and 14. That only leaves two spots. So that is the other reason. It's just a lot of work. But anyways.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was just going to say, this sounds like the similar situation with ELL that we're going to talk about later, and that we just have a rising population in these groups, and we don't currently have the bandwidth to cover it all.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Yes.
It becomes a workload situation. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have any questions for you per se, but just in general, do we have an idea of the total cost of all of these additions?
So are you talking about all the positions for special education? I did not, I'm going to be honest, I didn't tally up the total cost of all of them, because you've got an OT. We have to increase that because we can't serve the students, and we have, I left my phone over there, but I do have the numbers. We have 6 completely blind students in our district, 17 total, and you can only have 8 on a caseload. So that's something that's required by law. So I'm a law person and I am a student person. I do the funding piece, but I did not add up the total of all that, because I did put the range on there because the salaries are, I go on the salary schedule, so I really don't know that until I get a person. Depends on their years of experience.
Mr. Smith, do you have any idea, or Mr. Atkins, any idea about the total cost of all these additions?
Mr. Smith probably has a ballpark simply because he has these embedded into our current budget.
Yeah, I can't recall the range. As Ms. Francis says, there's so much variability. The best thing that, whatever the top of that range is, multiplied by the number of people, would probably be the best ballpark we could give for a cost estimate. That'd be the most conservative and the highest cost. But until we hire those people, that's really all I can provide, is the range of the cost per position, so.
Okay. And again, it's not that I doubt that we probably need some of these positions or legally, it would be better to shift from having folks already doing this to having maybe someone specific to do it. I don't doubt that. I think my biggest concern is that, we've added positions multiple times in multiple meetings, and I know I've asked multiple times if we could just have a comprehensive list of positions added, of the total costs of that, of where those positions were added, just so we could have a big picture as a board. Because again, when we're making decisions, about maybe $500,000, we want to be able to say, should that go for raises? Should that go for more classroom teachers? Should that go for more central office staff? We want to be able to look at that big picture as a board member, and I don't feel like we're able to do that because we just aren't given the information. And when we're given it piecemeal, it's just very hard to make these decisions one at a time. So, that really is my concern. I don't doubt that we need some of these positions, but I don't know that the way that we're going about doing this makes a whole lot of sense to me.
So I think this is exactly what Mr. Smith and everybody has tried to do for us this year, is put together a comprehensive list of what they know today that we will need for next year. And I think that's the list that we have here. And there are costs associated, or a cost range associated with every single position that has been asked for. So I do think we have the information that we need. I do think that Mr. Smith has tried to appease the questions. We simply can't know today. You can't say today that we will never ask, nobody will ever ask for another position next year. This is what we know of as of today. Mr. Smith was clear that all of this was put into the budget that we will review in a little bit. Ranges were put on for every single position, and the number of roles that were needed were put in there. So I would disagree that we don't have the information. I think we do have the information.
Do you have any more direct questions related to special education? Ms. Springate?
I didn't have any special education questions.
Okay, I just don't want to continue to stand here if you do not have questions for me.
No,
I am not Vanna White.
No.
My other question was about the transportation, the change in the classification for the transportation training coordinator.
That is not me.
I know I'd emailed about that one in terms of what the cost would be, but because this is being reclassified from one position to another, I wondered if you could explain a little bit about that. Are we going to be losing, is it like a bus driver position we're going to be losing? And then the range, the pay range, I think that was the cost of the position starting out. It wasn't considering what that current position is already being paid and then the difference.
Yes. So the new transportation director, Mr. Sloan, wanted to reclassify the job description so there's one additional position on there, the transportation logistics coordinator. So that's the new position. The other one is an existing position that's called a driver trainer. He just wanted to redefine the job descriptions for that driver trainer. There's no change in salary whatsoever for that position. It's specifically changing the job description from whatever that position is to the new title as outlined on that, with no change in the pay whatsoever. No change in the personnel. It's the same person, just a new job title, new job description.
I didn't see the logistics one. Maybe
The transportation logistics one, and that was my mistake, I didn't put them all together. I noticed that this morning. The transportation logistics coordinator is about mid-page, up above those other two positions. And that one is for routing needs. We really didn't have a routing coordinator in place, and we need a routing coordinator in place to be solely, so that the driver trainer can focus solely on training drivers, which is the big rock, as we say, that's got to be done in the transportation department. And if we pull those routing responsibilities off of that driver trainer, that lets them train the drivers, and it gives us a clear-cut routing coordinator to focus on the routes. Because that gets challenging, the more, difficulties we have with staffing the drivers, that whole routing piece becomes more and more difficult. Not to mention the new high school edition that's going to have to be rerouted for in the very near future. So that's really why we needed that position added. It also gives us another person to be able to drive a bus in the event that we need another driver. So there's a lot of reasons that we really need that position added to the transportation department.
I'm just trying to find it. I'm sorry. I've missed it in this packet. Transportation training coordinator.
If you look on the last page.
Very last
there
page
is
of the
a-
packet?
Yeah, there's a list of ones there on that. So the overall thing here is to include all of the ones in there, including this last page, which includes that transportation logistics coordinator on there. So that is on that last page, the very, very last page, page 30, in that spreadsheet.
Sorry, I just want to take a look at it.
And another reason why we need to do the change for the training coordinator is because it's just listed as a driver trainer, and our goal is to increase our driver trainers, which would then, they would be meeting that expectation of a driver trainer. So this allows them to be the training coordinator, not just the driver trainer, because we wouldn't want somebody else to think that they're the district driver trainer even if they have that certification. So this is to make them the coordinator of training instead of just being a driver trainer like they currently are. It's like the fifth, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down on that spreadsheet on page 30.
Page 30. Sorry. It's sideways.
Yes.
And Ms. McCowan, I think the job description for that starts on page 16 of the attachment, is the actual job description.
I thought the job description was for the training. That was the new
Trainer,
class.
yeah, that's what, yep,
Right,
that's what
I saw
Mr.
that one, but the logistics one is the one that I didn't see. I thought it was two separate ones.
He was just talking about that transportation, which is why I picked that up.
Yeah, it is two separate ones on there. It just doesn't list the second job description on the board agenda. The position is there to be created for this evening, just not the job description, so we can relay that to the next board meeting for you all to approve that job description. But that was one that we are coming in at latter part, trying to get this ready to go for this year, this coming year with the new high school and everything else. We have to basically route our transportation department twice next year, and so this would allow somebody to be dedicated to routing for that position.
And currently, that would be the director of transportation that would fulfill that duty, right?
No, it is actually a team of people that do it currently. You have your driver trainer, you have your head maintenance specialist, mechanic specialist, and then you have your director of transportation that currently do it. And because it's been years and years of the same thing over and over again, really when we go to route, it's just a simple, we're updating the streets and taking off kids that are no longer there, that have moved from middle school to high school, and we don't have to travel that road anymore. Now we're really gonna have to figure out with this new high school, how do we get all of the kids that were walkers to be riders, and how all the kids that used to ride over here in the colony a bus that's probably gonna walk across the street to the high school, how do we get all of that? And then the logistics of getting the buses from one side of town to the other, there's a lot that has to be played out in this new high school. And so that is why we went ahead and put that on there. And like I said, that was a missed job description, but the position is there for approval tonight, but we will get you that job description for June to approve that job description.
That's the data assistant, Dr. Rayburn?
Nope, that would be the logistics. So the data The transportation
Oh,
data.
I see it, I see it.
Yeah, the data specialist is the secretary for the department.
Yeah, gotcha. I see it now.
I think my concern too, just asking that those be pulled apart, I can see certainly the need for support for the special education positions. I mean, there are legal requirements around that, and I would never not want to be supportive of making sure that our schools have, and our students have the resources that they need for that. But not being able to pull out, you know, not being able to vote individually, that makes a big difference, because there are some positions here I wonder about. Just, you know, and I know that we're talking about reasons that we need these positions in transportation, and but it's a lot of money, and you know, we're getting ready to talk about our budget, and just those are some of the concerns I have, and would like to have voted separately about those.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 3-2. We'll move on to approve the FY25 salary schedule. Can I have a motion to approve the salary schedule?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Brickler.
Second.
I will, second by Ms. McCowan. Discussion on this?
I would just say that I feel like, you know, it would have probably been more productive and made more sense to talk about the budget before we talked about approving the personnel changes and the salary schedule, just so that we could have had that discussion prior to having both the last vote and this vote. I definitely, absolutely think that some of the information that we were provided tonight by the teachers who came, and we had to get a listing of salaries from districts nearby, and you know, the percents that they are going to be doing, and just that comparison is very eye-opening. You know, I would have liked for us to have had a work session to be able to go over this information prior to being asked to come tonight and vote on it, because I do think that when you look at where we're at budget-wise, there's a lot of opportunity to look at are things that we're doing and money that we are spending on different things, is that a good use of our resources, or are there possible ways to kind of look at some of those expenses and talk about doing, you know, a better raise, a raise that meets the cost of living adjustment and keeps us competitive with other counties. I think just having that overall big discussion and looking at things holistically and really from, you know, the balcony when you're trying to make decisions for the school district makes more sense to me, and I'm really sad that we didn't have that opportunity tonight. You know, that being said, I do believe that with the SEEK increases and with our tax assessments going up, that, you know, we should be able to do better than a 3% raise this year.
Mr. Smith, can you tell us what was the percent of the SEEK increase?
The SEEK increase was 3% to the base.
What was it?
3%.
Thank
That yielded approximately $950,000 to the district, of which some of that has to be returned to the schools in their allocation. You know, as the SEEK base goes up, we're required to fund 3.5% per student back to the school. So 950, that probably nets us a little under 900,000 to be able to utilize for additional expenses for things like salaries, et cetera.
And how much was our SEEK this year?
Yeah, we lost, with the assessment growth last year, we lost about $1 million out of our SEEK in FY24. So it was $9.5 million last year, or this year, current year, FY24, and it'll be about $10.5 million for FY25.
So really, we made up the loss from last year. It would not be in addition really over, it's a net zero gain year over year for us.
That's correct. We're essentially back to where we were at this time last year from a SEEK standpoint, so.
And we've included and I do think it's important that we have these discussions before we approve the budget, because these are the basis for what you have built into the budget. So I think that it is important we have those discussions first. So you have built into the budget for this coming year, the salary schedule that was attached, and also all of the personnel changes from item G that were passed just a moment ago, correct?
Correct.
And we've also taken into consideration any tax increases that could be passed by the board to cover any costs that are increased, correct?
So I need to explain that in my budget presentation. So, yes.
Okay.
There is a page in there that outlines the tax increase. You know, if we take a tax increase in FY25, based on holding certain variables constant, that is accounted for in there, yes.
And how much is the step increase approximately? Typically, that's a little over 1%?
The stepping, yeah, it's between 1 and 1.5%. It's closer to 1%. It just depends. You know, we've got 50 different lines on the salary schedule, and it really depends on which line you look at. But overall, it's a little over 1% for the step.
Okay. And that's included in this salary schedule as well?
Yes, absolutely.
And just to be clear, what we would be approving tonight, the tentative budget, is this document. It's not the presentation that we're going to be getting tonight. So if you look at the tentative budget, which is what we would be approving, the general property tax for last fiscal year, for fiscal year 24, this fiscal year, is $17,400,000. And for the proposed 25 is $17,400,000. So that's leaving it at a compensating rate. So that is what is in the actual document that we will be approving.
That's correct. And again, I think we need to get to the budget presentation and let me explain all that before we get too far ahead of ourselves, so that I can explain what's happening with the revenue there. And in the presentation, and I state this every year in May, I do not adjust the tax rate revenue at this point, because we don't know we don't have any information about what that might or might not be in September at this point. So I do not ever, and will never, as long as I do the budget, change that number in May at the tentative, because I do not have the information. It'd be like literally throwing a dart at the wall to find a place for it to stick.
Yeah, and looking at, sorry. Well, I was gonna say, looking at the salary schedule, I know that when we do these comparisons to other counties, I really like that we have this, because it does put us in a place of where everybody else is. And I know last year when we looked at these, we actually did more than the other counties did, many of them. I know there were some outliers, but it makes sense that some of them are trying to play catch up to us now because of what we were able to do last year. So the fact that we were able to do a good raise last year, and then even though we might not be able to do a 5%, still having a 3%, when you combine that, shows the strength that we have and how competitive we are compared to other places that they're now trying to play catch up to us.
Yeah, if you take the total change in the payroll for the last 2 years plus what we're wanting to approve tonight at 3%, I mean, it's almost 14% for the last 3 years. I think we're very competitive with all the surrounding districts. And the rest of the story that you're not going to see from that piece of paper is a lot of the surrounding districts are doing different things with their tax rates. I mean, one local district passed what's essentially a non-restricted nickel through their general fund, which yielded a lot of money, which is significantly different than passing even the 4% rate. You know, that's a significant difference in revenue by passing a nickel tax increase to the general fund. And some districts are, instead of taking the compensating rate, taking the tax rate that holds the rate the same. So, for example, the last several years, Woodford's assessments have grown in a manner that I think last year it went up just a cent, if I remember it correctly, maybe a half a cent. But in prior years, we were able to take the 4% growth rate and reduce tax rates. Well, you know, that's great but that doesn't always, like that tax rate doesn't compensate for 14% worth of raises that we're giving in the last 3 years. So, you know, the mathematics just kind of don't bear that out from a revenue standpoint, but I think we've been very competitive with surrounding districts in what we've given. It's just, we gave it last year, they're giving it this year kind of thing, so.
Well, and I think to be fair, if you look at the percents they gave last year, a lot were more than us. I mean, there were a few smaller, but not a lot. And this year, if you look at the numbers, they're pretty high. I mean, they're looking pretty good. And when you look at the chart, we're falling at the bottom, you know, across the three ranges. But back to my first point, I know you don't want to get into the budget yet, and I don't either, but to Ms. McCowan's, Ms. McHale's point of, you know, when she asked, did you build in the assessment increase into this budget? And you said yes. When you look at it, that's just not true. What it is it remained, I'm sorry, if I could just finish, please.
That statement is not accurate.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to speak.
I haven't been able to explain the budget yet. It is built into the budget. It's just in the contingency. It's not in the revenue line. So it is built in there. So all I'm saying is we need to wait till we get to the budget presentation to discuss the budget presentation, because we're talking about things that aren't correlated here. And
Again, when Ms.
Well, you're telling me I'm giving you wrong
asked,
information,
have we
and I'm
got the
telling you that it's
information in
not.
here for the assessment increase so that we could talk about that possibly being for raises? And you said yes. I just want to be clear with the teachers sitting out here and the public that leaving it flat is not taking into account the extra millions that will be coming if we do any rate besides just leaving it at that flat rate. And what we've done in the past is the maximum 4% increase, because the assessments are going up. And if anybody in this county has gotten their assessment bills so far, they know that that has gone up astronomically, and that will result in an increase. It has, if you look over the past 10 years of assessments, they've gone up, and what we've been able to do with our tax rate has gone up, you know, year after year. And again, I understand what you were saying when you say you like to just leave it the exact same, but that, in fact, is probably not what's going to be recommended when we have our tax vote. And in fact, the revenue listed here that's the exact same as the revenue that we've received this fiscal year is going to most likely be more by, you know, a couple $1 million. And so you do have that money that could possibly be used for higher than the 3% raise tonight. It's just not reflected in these documents. So I'm not sure if, you know, board members are aware or the public is aware, but it's really important to have accurate numbers and have an accurate idea of exactly what the revenue will be before we decide to cap the salary increases. That is all I'm saying.
And I'm going to say that I'm refuting everything that you just said, because it is reflected in the contingency. I reduced the contingency amount, but that way it's compensating for the revenue decrease. So it is absolutely reflected in the budget, and I will present that very clearly as soon as we get to the budget.
Ms. Springate, I think we all want to advocate for, you know, as high a raise as we can for our staff. I do recall last year we had a work session, and our teachers came and spoke. We had a budget proposed last year with 5%. Do you remember how you voted on that budget?
On the teachers' salary increase, I'm sure I voted yes on their salary schedule, adding that increase into it. Absolutely. The budget isn't the salary increase for the teachers. The salary schedule is that, so.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the topic of the salary schedule. I think that Mr. Smith has advised us that he has covered all of these costs in the budget presentation, which is next. So if there are no other questions on the salary schedule, then we will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay, and I would like to explain my vote by simply saying that I feel like there will be more revenue next year, and that could have been used for greater increase in salaries. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the FY25 tentative budget. Item I, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Brickler.
Ms. McHale,
Yeah?
Ms. Cooper's,
4-1.
It was 4-1, and it was, yeah, it was. I'm sorry, is that it then? Are we good?
yes. I don't know if you can hear Ms. Cooper well.
I could not.
Okay,
no.
she's finished. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
That was a motion by Mr. Brickler. Can I have a second to approve the tentative budget?
Second.
A second by Ms. Glass. Mr. Smith?
Absolutely. So, Josh, you gonna pull the presentation up? So while he's doing that, just a reminder of the budgeting process. The draft budget is due every year in January. The tentative budget is due every year in May. The working budget is due every year in September. So we are in the tentative budget cycle. Each local board of education is required to approve a tentative budget on or before May 30th of each year. This is the second formal step in developing the 2024-2025 annual working budget. And I'm on slide 4, Josh. So with the projected revenue for the general fund, and I have another slide later on that's going to walk us through in a little more detail here. The assumptions, the revenues projected on the adjusted average daily attendance numbers for FY, that should be 25 to estimate the SEEK. Property taxes are held constant in this projection, as we discussed a few moments ago. The general fund revenue is expected to be $53,399,622 in FY25, including the beginning balance carry forward. This does include the $12,546,718 for OMAF payments made by the state. As a reminder, I always caveat those OMAF payments are just something we have to reflect both in the revenue and the expense. There's no actual cash inflow or outflow based on that. I also put the bullet point on there about the 3% SEEK base yield, which, approximately $1 million of additional revenue it yields to the district. Next slide. So projected revenues for the other funds, the food service fund, revenues approximately $3,102,744, and it shows you what the prior year actual revenues were and what the FY24 actual revenues were as of May 5th when I created this PowerPoint. The after school program fund revenue, $422,788. The reason that's significantly different is we got a lot of grant funding in the after-school program in the last 3 or 4 years with COVID, and we're still getting a lot of grant funding. And so I just wanted to be really conservative while they're spending that grant money and not put really big numbers in these revenue and expense lines, because they're really focused on operating out of the grant monies, which are basically making them self-sustaining through that at this point. So it's reflected as lower, but I expect the revenues to be very similar to what they are in the current year out of the general fund portion. So the special revenue fund, which is our grant revenue, approximately $4,370,208. Special revenue is an estimate of federal, state, local funds. Special revenue would be adjusted based on actual grant funding. So the next slide. So we'll talk about our debt service a little bit. Fund 400 debt service payments are $4,767,882, and they're funded by the following sources. So if you'll remember, when we sold bonds for the high school last year, the debt schedule for this year had us contributing about $700,000 from the general fund for debt service for those bond payments. Just due to all the changes that we've been discussing about thinking that we would get bonding capacity back sooner, we're already down to where we're only going to have about a $31,000 commitment out of the general fund to cover the bonding. So when we talk about the revenues in a few minutes, keep that in mind, that $700,000 helped us, and that we don't have that expenditure going towards the debt service. So that's about a $670,000 net change there.
And that's next year, right?
For FY25.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is not recurring, or is it recurring?
I'm
Is
sorry.
it's a one-time, is it a one-time reduction?
No, it should be, like, as we move forward with that debt service payment, that should be a permanent reduction in the general fund outflow.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
It does,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. So if things continue to progress, when we do the FY '26 schedule, there shouldn't be any general fund commitment to transfer for the debt service is really what I'm trying to get to there. So Fund 320 transfer, that is all of that Fund 320, the building fund. The Fund 310 transfer, that's all of the capital outlay transfer, but that gets us to cover all of our debt payments. And then there's the SFCC on behalf, which is another, something the state pays on our behalf. It's not really a true cash inflow or outflow. And I illustrated there, Funds 310 and 320 have a $0 remaining balance. Any major facility repairs will have to be funded by the general fund. Excuse me. Next slide, please. So for the personnel expense, an overall increase of 3% for all contracted certified staff and positional changes was used to estimate a total increase of approximately $1,281,074, and it is reflected into the tentative budget. And just to kind of show what we've done in the past 3 years, the 2%, the 8% blended with all, and that's actually closer to 9% after I recalculated it. And then the projected 3% this year is 14% salary increases for the total of the last 3 years. And then the personnel costs still represent approximately 75% of the projected general fund expense in the tentative budget. If you go to the next slide, please. All right. So this is the one I wanted to explain, and this may be what's causing some of the confusion with the revenues or potential revenues, and I wanted to make sure I go through this very clearly and make sure that everybody understands where we are from a revenue standpoint. You know, we came here this time last year and we put forward all those raises that we put forward, all the things that we did that gets us to that 9% that we did. At that time, we had about a $10 million beginning balance carry forward from the prior year. And we said the raises would cost somewhere around $2 million. And so we did that. We got our tax rates in the fall, August, September timeframe, and we took the 4% revenue growth, right, which yielded approximately $1.4 million in new revenue. So we have $2 million in recurring expenses that we added with salary increases. We took a tax increase that yielded $1.4 million of new revenue. So that's a $600,000 net deficit that recurs year over year over year over year at that point. I'm still happy and kind of knew that's where we're going to be, still happy with that because we had a $10.2 million beginning balance carry forward. It's not annual recurring revenue, but it's our cushion, right? And we knew that was a little bit too big. I acknowledge that was a little bit too big of a beginning balance carry forward. So in order to spend that down, we knew we were doing these raises, and that'd kind of help us in that regard, right? So the fall comes around, and they give me my final SEEK along about the end of September after we've done all the tax rates, and we lost $1 million in our SEEK funding, in our final SEEK funding, because our assessments go up. And that's always that counterbalance between property tax rates and assessments and SEEK, that when you take tax rates and your assessments go up, your SEEK funding goes down. Well, it just was very untimely, very bad for us. Typically, assessment growth is a good thing. We like that. But when it reduces our SEEK by $1 million, because, you know, everything's based on an estimate. When it was estimated in the spring, it was estimated at a number. It comes in the fall, it was significantly higher. We lost $1 million out of our SEEK. So you back $1 million out. So now we're back to $1.6 million annual deficit in recurring expenditures over recurring revenue. So that's what we're starting FY 25 with, is a $1.6 million revenue deficit, okay? Well, $10.2 million And I think I acknowledged today in an email to all the board members that because every payroll we run as we get closer to the end of the year, June 30th, I can get more accurate with that number, but there's a couple of variables that I just can't get precise at this point. And I acknowledge today that deficit's probably closer to 1.9 million, right? Just because of all the salary changes and all the things that we've done. So $1.9 million in annual revenue deficit. So $10.2 million beginning balance. You start chunking $2 million off of that, so now we're down to 8.2, and for FY25, you take two more down, we're down to 6.2 million. So, right, just to kind of help paint the bigger picture as to how all that's intermingled. So we don't have a $10.2 million beginning balance carry forward anymore. We're probably going to have a $6.2 million beginning balance. And in a perfect world, your ending balance, what we call carry forward, is theoretically what your contingency is, because that's the unspent dollars you have available, and your contingency should, in a perfect world, match. Oftentimes it doesn't, but that's what should happen. So proceed to FY25. Well, you know, one of the reasons that we do this in May, and we talked about doing it in April back in the winter, but the legislature hadn't approved what they were going to do with the next biennium. So they approved a 3% SEEK increase for FY25 and a 6% SEEK increase for FY26. So, you know, we know we've got this revenue deficit, so we know we're getting 3% this year, which is going to yield us about $1 million. We know we're going to get 6% more next year, which is about another $1 million. And so that's $2 million. Well, that covers our $1.6 million deficit. And, you know, this is all contingent upon, and I'm just going to be blunt with you. If you don't plan on taking the 4% growth rate in the fall, you can't pass these because we don't have the revenue for it. If you plan on passing the 4% growth rate in the fall, then we have the revenue to do these raises. Because what we're doing essentially is front-loading them, right? We're taking that 6% growth that we're going to get next year's SEEK, and we're going to pay it out in salaries this year instead of waiting. So that's kind of how the math works out. But that's also why the revenue is not there, back to the earlier conversation. The revenue just isn't there. We're at as we stand here today, a $1.6 million annual revenue deficit, period. No more discussion. You don't have to change anything to make that happen. And so I wanted to illustrate that, you know, so if we do these raises, 1.2 million, we do the 4% growth rate, 1.4 million in revenue. Now, that's based on keeping all the variables static. The assessment's the same as they were last year. We know those will probably be higher, you know. So, and then the 3% SEEK base. So that gets us to, if those things occur and come to fruition at the end of FY25, we will still have a $400,000 revenue deficit, meaning expenses are more than revenue by $400,000. In FY26, we know we're going to get that additional 6%, which is still going to be about $1 million revenue for us. So that gets us to $600,000 positive cash flow next year. And I'll just tell you, the step is about $400,000, or it will be next year. It was $350,000 this year. It'll be $400,000 next year. So with just the step for next year, FY26, you'll have $200,000 of positive cash flow available at that point. So that's just kind of illustrating, you know, how we've been front-loading these salaries, you know, with this SEEK increases coming. And so now, the one variable that changes this is the tax rate. In the fall, the tax rate can be done something different than with a 4% growth rate. You can do what some of these other districts are absolutely doing from a taxing standpoint to be able to fund all of these raises. That does change the equation, but it does take that exactly as I've outlined it on this paper to get us back to positive net cash flow beginning FY26. So I'd like to stop there and answer any questions that you have about that, because I think this is a very critical slide that we need to discuss if you have questions about that. So
I like seeing the chart. That's very helpful. I'm glad that you included that. And I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just a couple of quick questions. So did you say that the 6% in SEEK that we are expecting to get in FY '26, that part of that is being used to support a 3% raise this year?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, so we're borrowing against
Yes,
future revenue
that's correct.
to do this?
Yes.
Because I went back and was trying to refresh, and remember what we did last year and the things that we talked about. And I thought last year, we said that we would not be able to give raises in FY '25 if the 4% was not taken in FY '24, and the board did vote to do that. So.
I think that was before, though, we found out we lost $1 million in our final SEEK. That is the piece that has changed the equation significant. Changed it $1 million. I was prepared because the beginning balance carry forward that we had last year at $10.2 million, knowing that that was probably getting in the area of being too high for us, trying to spend that down a little bit. But then we lost $1 million, and that's a significant amount of money to our budget, so.
And Mr. Smith, when we say, that 6% for FY '26, I don't know that you're necessarily saying we're borrowing against FY '26 more than we're gonna be using our contingency, a little bit of the contingency this year to bridge us to next year when we get that additional revenue from the 6%, which would then cover the increase in perpetuity. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. My only caveat with that is and it goes back to the earlier, I had to reduce the contingency to get the budget balanced, and it's reduced down to about 4.5 million, if I remember correctly. I don't like to carry our contingency any lower than that, so that's kind of the other reason that we got to fix the revenue side next year, just the way the the contingency is essentially our cash balance from July 1 until we get tax payments in November. That has to be enough cash to help us. We get a few payments with SEEK and whatever, but we have to have enough cash on hand to be able to run the payrolls and pay any checks. And, it takes somewhere around $6 million to get us through to November. So I am comfortable with that, but I don't want it to go any lower in the future, so.
Yep, understood. Thank you.
So I'm kind of piecing all this together as well. So we lost money in SEEK last year. We made some of that up this year, but basically just put us back to where we were before we took the loss, right? So the increase in SEEK this year overall in the last 2 years didn't help us that much.
Correct.
So we've also been hit with, what was it, last year, the bourbon barrel tax freeze, that we're gonna lose future revenue from that as well. So we've been hit a couple times with these. The governor tried to pass an 11% raise, and the legislature did not support that, so it didn't happen. Yeah. It was mentioned in one of the public comments earlier that, basically it gets kicked onto us, and now we are in this place to do everything we can to give as much as we can within our budget. And now we're kind of on a little edge here of we are doing as much as we can, but we know that it's putting us in a spot that we need this additional revenue down the road. We're eating into our contingency so that we can provide this 3%. And when we get that additional SEEK, that 6%, it's gonna help build that back up. My question is, with assessments going, do I have all that right so far?
You do.
Okay. When we all know, Ms. Springate mentioned, a lot of us got our assessments that were surprising to some people, and they're higher. So when, and it makes sense, property values have gone up, that's natural, I wasn't that surprised, but when SEEK is affected by our assessments, that 6% that we're talking about, because our assessments have gone up and will, chances are, continue to go up, is that gonna impact that 6% SEEK in '26 enough that we will have to worry then of maybe that 6% doesn't mean as much as we're thinking now?
It can. I have estimated it much higher because of that, what happened to us last year. I've given KDE the numbers to estimate that SEEK much higher, so hopefully that won't be as big of recess as it was last year. So,
Okay.
yes. But it's,
And you can see that, Mr. Smith, because that's a 6% at $1 million, which is the same as your 3% increase this year. So
Yeah.
that's where you're taking that sort of conservative view on that.
yeah, yes, yeah. And, you know, the other variable is if we had student growth, of course, you could have student decrease, but student growth would also change those numbers pretty significantly, so. It's assessments and students.
Okay,
And,
yep.
and, you know, so we had a finance meeting, Casbo last week, and I asked during an open session of a room full of other finance officers, how do you estimate your SEEK? And there is no right answer to get that right because it's all over the place and it's based on, you know, the PVA and it's based on what quadrant of the county they're assessing, and they don't like to, and I understand that, they don't like to give that information out until it's official, and so we're kind of playing a semi-guessing game. So I've started guessing high on the assessments so that we don't have a decrease in our SEEK anymore in the future, and hopefully that'll pan out.
Okay, thank you.
I did have just a few things. First, on the SEEK reduction, it's not that we actually lost really any money because those were just projections. So we didn't really lose, you know, any money based off the projections per se. But I think when you go back, you know, and again, just to highlight what we say and what we talk about in the meetings and sometimes the presentations, what we'll actually be approving is the tentative budget document that's the 75, 80 page. And if you go back and look at that for actuals, fiscal year 23 actuals, the SEEK payment was around $10 million. And then this year, we're pretty much almost at actuals. We're near the end of the year. I know we've still got, till the end of June for the fiscal year to actually end, but it's at $9,500,000. So if you just do the math, that's not really $1 million. It's more like 500,000. And then if you look at the fiscal year 25 budget appropriation, you have it up at 10.5. So again, it's not holding constant from 23 to 25. It's a change of about $500,000, which is just money that potentially could have been used for raises.
But that's not how that works, ma'am. The forecast SEEK comes out in March. The forecast was at $10.5 million. I created a tentative budget based on the forecast SEEK, just as I'm doing this year. The forecast SEEK that's on KDE's website is $10.5 million. It was $10.5 million last year at this time. They submit the final in, I think it's at the end of September, after we already do our budget, the working budget in September. The final SEEK comes out, and the final SEEK is what they pay you from. So it absolutely affects the payments that you receive, because if they reduce that final to $9.5 million, all you get is $9.5 million. So that's the way that process works. You can't look at FY23 from a SEEK standpoint for actual and compare that to what happened in FY24.
Well, you can see that it's $500,000 down. I mean, you can definitely do that. And then if you look at the SEEK forecast for next year, it's 10 points.
$10.5 million from the forecast, not FY23's actual numbers.
And again, which is why I think it's important when we get these documents for them to be accurate.
They are accurate.
Or the estimates to be close.
They were close, based on
and
the
I
SEEK
feel like
documents from
that
KDE.
doesn't
I
happen.
will produce the
You know,
SEEK documents from KDE to tell you that they were exact.
Last year,
Last
the
year,
document
yes.
for this fiscal year coming up, 24-25, I have the SEEK calculation from KDE in front of me, and it's 10.6. So you have 10.5. It's similar.
Well, it's 10,500,000 and some change, so if we
so-
want to argue hairs there, we can argue
Right, there's
hairs.
an extra 123,000 there that possibly could be used for raises. But I think the bottom line is, last year we sat in this room and we went over the tentative budget for last year, and my recollection is we were told that we were going to end the year at about 6.5 million. We ended at 10.5-ish. So that's a big difference. We were told we were going to have losses. We ended with over $1 million surplus. So I think that, having the revenue and the expenditures be somewhat in line with what the actuals are is very important. And so, you know, I readily admit that there are times that I vote no on financial things because I don't feel like we're getting accurate or timely information. You know, I don't think that's a secret. I've said it, you know, on multiple occasions. But again, I think just looking at some of this to say, you know, that with the assessments going up, our proposed budget that we're approving tonight is saying that the amount of money we're going to get for fiscal year 24 and next year, fiscal year 25, to leave it the same, I don't think is really being honest with the board or the public about where that revenue comes in. I think a lot of times we get these budgets, and then when we look at actuals, they're just differences of hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. And so, you know, I don't do my household budgeting like that. I try to make sure that, you know, I'm staying in line and I'm looking at my expenses. I'm not always just having my hand out saying, I need more, taxpayers, I need more. We're gonna do the maximum rate, but we're never gonna have any discussions about the expenses. We're never gonna look at those and say, well, you know, did this really work? Does this make sense? Do we need all these positions? You know, and I feel like that's just something that's very important to do. And as long as our strategy is just hoping that we can get the 4% maximum increase year after year without looking at expenses just isn't sustainable.
I think it would really be prudent at this point. It seems that either you perceive that Mr. Smith doesn't know how to do his job, or you don't fully understand the finances. I really think it would be prudent. We have all sat here and talked about how we have went to KSBA trainings over trainings, and they have said it is about building relationships. It is about having open lines of communication. I really think it would be prudent for you to sit down with Mr. Smith in an open forum where you guys, no one's hiding anything from the public. You can sit and have a civil conversation. He can have all of the information that he needs at his disposal. You can come with all of the questions that you have, and then you both can have a better understanding, because clearly you sit here every month that you get a chance and disrespect Mr. Smith every month. If you don't fully understand, then I think it would be prudent to your constituents that you fully get the information and understand. You won't even give him a second to speak. You speak over him. I mean, he is the professional here. If you don't think that he is doing a correct job, instead of berating him in a public meeting, maybe meet with him. That's how I do my relationships. Maybe meet with him. Mr. Brickler said he sat in the same exact KSB session. You were actually in there with me. You asked the gentleman the question, and he told you, relationships. Have a good relationship. Have open conversation. But you refuse to do that. If you really truly care and you want to get the answers, instead of rolling your eyes at me, act like an adult and meet and have a conversation.
If you finished, I would just like to say, my job as a board member, I didn't get elected to sit up here and rubber stamp everything. What we are told in training, what we are told in best practice, what we are told to do, and as part of our oath, as part of our duties, is to be fiscally responsible. And so these discussions by law are supposed to happen in open meeting. It's not berating anyone to ask questions about finances and to point out if there's something in here that is just not, I'm hearing something, but we're seeing something different. We're being told one thing and it's incorrect. There's nothing wrong with saying we need the budget revenue to be spot on or close. We need expenses to be spot on or close. These are discussions that by statute have to happen in open meetings. And so I do think that having relationships is great, but I think our job is to provide oversight. Our job is to ask the questions in an open meeting. And so for you to perceive that someone asking questions is somehow being rude or disrespectful, I think it's an issue that maybe you have. I feel like being a grown woman who's elected to a position to provide fiscal responsibility and oversight, my duties requires me to ask questions and to provide that oversight. And so you may disagree and you may not want the information, but I do want the information, and I do believe that that is part of doing a good job. And I think that spending 15, 20 minutes attacking another board member is not a good use of a board meeting. And I think that asking questions and being civil, I don't raise my voice. I do know that, maybe Mr. Smith talked over me a few times tonight, and, I tried to just be silent while he finished and then respond, just like I'm doing now. So I do think that it's a good use of tax dollars to talk about what our finances are, and it's a good use of time to have work sessions to look line by budget, because that's what we're required to do.
Mr. Markin, can I ask you a question? Are we legally obligated to discuss our finances every meeting, to have a discussion?
No, there's no requirement for discussion per se at a meeting. As a board member, you have a responsibility to review the information to make sure that you are, satisfied with it. If you have questions, to pursue those. But board members are free to, outside of an open meeting, go to administration and get information, whatever that happens in a meeting or out of a meeting.
Thank you.
Answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
I think just sitting back and listening to everything and trying to look at the presentation versus what's in the Munis report, because that's always a challenge. I do think that that's why it would be prudent to have financial discussions each month and have that item on the regular agenda, because we have these discussions, if it continues at this rate, 3 times a year, and there's a lot of information to discuss. So personally, this is one of the reasons I would like to see this discussed every single month, to see our treasurer's report discussed each month, because we have a better understanding of where we might be headed at the end of the year. We have an understanding of what the concerns are around revenue, around our expenses, and we're not getting that. And instead it's a month before the fiscal year is about to close, and we're coming to grips with, here's really where we're at after all the work that we did last year, and if we don't do this, then this. And it's not a good situation to be in, and I don't think that we have to be in this position. But the other thing that concerns me is that just looking at the last several months, our expenditures are certainly outpacing our revenue. And we're talking about ways to generate revenue and ways to generate revenue, but we're not really talking about expenses. We're talking about raises, but we're not talking about other things that I don't have a ton of insight into, but I would like to know more about, certain expenses. Are we really looking at every single thing that we can do when we make a decision? Is this an absolute must-have, or is this would be nice to have kind of thing, when we're talking about what we're spending our dollars on? And so those are things that I don't know the answer to, because when we look at our financials, we don't really have a bucket of, this is how much is allocated. Board of Education, this is all of your money for the year for your per diem, for your training, whatever. Go forth and do good. I don't really understand that. It's all lumped into one big, larger fund. So it's really hard to see, are there places where we can just scale it back? Because I think going to the taxpayers every year and being put in a situation where if we don't take the 4%, we can't give raises. But we're not talking about what we can do to be better stewards of how we're spending our money. That's my concern.
And I think my biggest concern is that every conversation turns into this. And this is why we have repetitively asked month after month after month for the last 3.5 years that I've been on the board to have a discussion ahead of time. At an open meeting, when we're voting on it, is not the time to ask a question for the first time. It is our responsibility to come to the meeting prepared to make a vote. That doesn't mean we can't have discussions and you can't have a question or two here and there, but what this always devolves into are these attacks. And no matter if somebody raises their voice or not, the condescension, the accusations in front of the entire public and people that work for and with our central office staff is clear. And that is something that we cannot continue. We can't. So we have made the decision to run the meetings the way that we have in the hopes it would open up communication outside the meetings, which it clearly has not. Clearly has not. We made the decision to run the meetings that we have to repair to help repair relationships between the school system and the community. That has started to happen. But I can't sit here and listen month after month after month to our staff being told that they're not being truthful, they're not being honest, they don't know what they're doing. There is not one person sitting at that table that is a trained school finance professional. And I'm sorry, there's a difference between cash and revenue. There's a difference. And that's what Mr. Smith is trying to explain. But instead of trying to understand what he said, and this material was available, we chose to come to the meeting and call him out in front of everybody. And I just can't support that. I'm very sorry. So what other questions do we have related to, and I don't even know, Mr. Smith, you didn't even get through your whole presentation here, but we have a presentation to get through. So I would suggest we let Mr. Smith speak. We think about what he is telling us and try to understand what he's telling us, especially if it's the first time we're really looking at it, so that we can have a vote. So if there is nothing else on this topic, I would ask Mr. Smith to continue on with his presentation.
Thank you. I do want to address just a couple of things, the comments there. So, Ms. McCown, one of the reasons I talk primarily with salary, because salary is 75 to 80% of our budget. You know, I've done some quick math. You know, our total expenditures are $36 million. Well, the salary is about 27 million of that. So, you know, the rest of that for the discretionary budgets, there's no way for me to look at all those expenditure line items. There's just so many people purchasing things. So that's why I primarily talk about the salary, right? So that's the reason for that. And just back to one comment, I acknowledged last year when we talked about the beginning balance or the ending balance carry forward, and I projected 6 million and it wound up being 10.2. I told you at that moment that I was doing that conservatively. I told you at that point that that number is better to be underestimated than it is overestimated and be plugged into a budget to be spent. And so what my question would be, if that is such a heinous crime on my part, what damage did that cause to be underestimated rather than to be overestimated? And I can tell you the answer. That's a rhetorical question. There's no damage to the district from a budgetary standpoint to do it the way that I did it. I even came back and sarcastically, I remember to ask Bob to write it in the paper, and he did a fantastic job, that I made a mistake being sarcastic because I knew that I underestimated that. You did a fantastic job, Bob. I did that because I knew I did that. I'd underestimated that number, because heaven forbid me overestimate that number and come back to this group and have that number be wrong the other way. And so I'm not going to stand up here and be called untruthful and be called whatever else anybody wants to call me. I have a 30-year impeccable work record that have never been accused of anything untruthful, dishonest, or anything, and I will not stand up here and let Ms. Springate accuse me of anything close to that. And so we can carry forward that conversation however you'd like, but I'm not going to stand up here month after month and allow you to tell me that I'm presenting untruthful information. Is it always 100% accurate? Absolutely not. You can't do any better. If you can, go find somebody, because I'm not going to stand up here and let you accuse me of all the things that you say and talk about all this, make all the false statements that you make while the teachers are in the room for Mr. Bob to print in the newspaper. I'm just not going to do that, okay? So if that's the game you want to play, until Danny Atkins fires me, I'll stand here and play it back with you, because I'm not going to do that.
I'm terribly sorry that this meeting has devolved into this.
I am too.
literally just wanted to ask questions and have discussion in front of the public about their tax dollars. I think that's important. And when I'm reviewing the numbers and saying the numbers, I don't think that that is any way attacking anyone. And hopefully, I can go back and review this meeting, and maybe you will too, and we'll see what was said by me or by you and what's been said by others. That might be a good thing to do.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to. I've answered any question that anyone has ever asked me from these financials. You've yet to ask me anything other than through an email, and you haven't asked me anything in several months now. And I've tried to answer every question that you've ever asked me, but when you start throwing in the terms, and you did this last year, when you start throwing in the terms untruthful and all these other things that are very they appear to present that I am presenting inaccurate information to you intentionally, and that could not be further from the truth. I've offered you information every time that I've offered it to anybody else. You've never taken me up on it, so I apologize that it's had to turn into this circus as well, because I take no professional responsibility or pride in this atmosphere either. But I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to stand up here and allow you or anybody else to accuse me of doing something. That's a sign. I'm going to shut up and move on. All right. So are there any more questions about the slide with the revenues?
I don't have questions about the revenue slide,
Yep.
but I just have one more question, but if you're not done yet, I can wait.
I was just going to go over the final
Yep.
slide about the budget contingency. So KDE defines the total budget as the budgeted revenues and expenditures in the general and food service funds excluding the contingency. The budgeted reserve and the tentative budget has been determined accordingly. This tentative budget contains a projected reserve of $4,399,620 of the total budget. The board must include a minimum reserve contingency of at least 2% of the total budget for the general and food service funds. The current contingency is approximately 8.4% of the total budget. This is approximately 8 weeks of operating expenses. Now I'm finished with my presentation.
The food services piece, we didn't talk a lot about that, and I know that the auditor mentioned something back in November when he came, and then you and I emailed a little bit about some concerns around that, and then Mr. Adkins mentioned in his weekly update to us that the CEP program would cause some concerns and things that we needed to discuss. So I wondered if you have that information now.
Yes, absolutely. So, we went to the full district-wide CEP program this year, and we did that in hopes that we'd be able to provide free lunch to all the students in the county. Well, just due to increased prices, food costs, in addition to the labor costs that we've talked about with the salary increases, that's created an imbalance in our food service fund in that we're going to have to help it out a little bit at the end of the year. I don't know exactly how much, but a little bit we'll have to transfer back to from the general fund to the food service fund to make that flush. And I think that, we're going to have sometime before the end of the year a conversation about how we want to move forward with that fund.
So for the reimbursement that we got from the federal government for that program, is that just for the students that are designated as free and reduced, or was that 100% reimbursement for every student?
Yeah, for this year, FY24 that we're in, that would be the reimbursement for all the meals that were served
For
to the
every
students.
student?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
no problem.
Okay, other questions on the budget, the tentative budget? Then we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yay.
The motion passes 3-2. That brings us to the end of our regular agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's a motion by Ms. Glass.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brickler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. So let's move right into, we've got to do a quick 5-minute Finance Corporation call. So I'd like to call to order our Finance Corporation meeting at Huntertown Elementary on May 13th, right, 2024. All members present, one virtual, 4 in person. Our only only agenda item is to approve the KU company easement. This is the same item that we approved in the regular agenda just a little bit ago. Can I have a motion to approve the KU company easement?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowen. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Glass,
Second.
second by Ms. McCowen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Have a good night.